expand the eye inside, and you will find that within this process of coming through the grapevine of the conscious tribe, we're stepping forward here to shift paradigms. This is Brendan, and you were tuned in for another exciting paradigm shift team building video hangout here with a little extra bonus freestyle flow tree on the top of that. And of course, as per usual, I'm joined by some amazing fellow shifters. So guys, we know what to do. Let's unmute our microphones and say hello to the beautiful people of the internet. Ow, ow, ow.
Hello, internet.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for being here tonight. And of course, this is going to be the first Paradigm Shift team building hangout that we've had in over a month. The last one that we had was around May 28th-ish, and obviously now is June 30th, so a lot has happened, and reminding people as to like what this is about. This is about the ongoing game to help shift consciousness, and within the team building hangouts, it's a place for us to be able to catch up, to be able to share how the journey has been unfolding from our perspectives, to give each other updates, to talk about future projects we're doing or future intentions, also talking about our common popular themes, even lucid dreaming, dream exploration, lots of really cool stuff. And of course, just inviting you guys who are tuned into this in the future, and also you guys who are also in the team building hangout with me right now, to just share this show, invite our friends, let's get the word out there that Paradigm Shift is live, and give people the opportunity to even join in. So reminding you guys in the future to join in with future Paradigm Shift team building hangouts. These are interactive, and this is a place for us to be able to practice talking about things that we don't normally get a chance to talk about, but in particular related to the shift in consciousness. So very exciting stuff, and thank you again for being here. So in terms of basic team fundraising and team information and all that basic stuff, we can get to that a little bit later, but let's open up the microphone and hear from some of our fellow shifters. So what we'll do, guys, we'll just go around the circle and we'll say our names or our code names or anything like that. And if you guys just want to give a quick introduction and a little bit where you're from and a little bit of how the journey has been unfolding from your perspective, just in short form version for now, and then we'll go around the circle again. So with that said, does anybody want to volunteer to go first? And I will say, people-wise, familiar faces, those of you who tuned in the past, we have Ashley, we have Kyle, we have Michelle, and we have Sean and myself, Brendan. So Kyle, it looks like you're eager to go first. Is that you good for that? Oh, I think you thought you were like, yeah. Kyle, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in if you want to introduce yourself first.
I said, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, mute-wise got glitched.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sorry,
yeah, okay, so Kyle, a regular here, definitely one of the lieutenants within this awesome tribe of shifters. So thank you so much for holding the fort while I was gone at the recent Om Festival, which is something I do want to talk about in this broadcast. Since the last time, within a quick update, it's just like, yeah, from my perspective, I was at a transformational festival. Some beautiful things happened there, and I'll be able to tell you guys more about what I brought back, as well as future visions and intentions for the project. But again, Kyle, we'll pass it over to you, and based on the last dream class that we had on sequence, we were just talking beforehand, and it was really interesting because within that class we were talking about the dream herbs, and we were talking about different methods for being able to just like remember our dreams, and then you went on a side mission and picked up some herbs, and you said there's some interesting synchronicities along the way, so feel free to share that and any other updates that you got for us, man.
Absolutely. How's it going, everybody? It has been a while since we've been able to get up for a team building hangout and try and stay updated. And yeah, no problem. I'm always trying to facilitate something. Yeah, when you were gone and I had to pull some people together just to sort of hang out and do the thing, and we ended up pulling in a guy named John, and he was just trying to sort of watch, but we ended up pulling him into participation and talking to him. And I brought my buddy Matt in. I just sent him another link to see if he wants to join in with us tonight. Yeah, it was very, very interesting. Roman was in that one, I believe. He was in there with us, and it was him, me, and Matt. We had 5 or 6 people in there at one point. So people were just listening, and Amelia had one of her friends with her there, so there was 2 people on one camera. Obviously, it wasn't broadcast, it wasn't live, but it was definitely a good. It was definitely very good. very good meeting we had. There was a lot of synchronicities in that one too. As far as from last night, yes, I went on a side mission that talked about um, the dream state, and it's everyone's talking about their dreams, and sometimes you become like you're like, oh man, I have a hard time in dream recall, and it's probably for a couple of different reasons or whatever, but so I got to try and sort through those and figure everything out. I think one of the biggest ones for dream recall for me is just trying to focus on that when you wake up and trying to focus on, wait, where was I? What did I do? This, at the third, and all the different details. But yes, we talked about the herbs and everything like that. I went on a side mission to go get some because I was very intrigued and very determined that I would have a very lucid dream experience. I was very determined to sort of grab onto that, not expecting it to just happen the first time or anything, or have any kind of a large result. And I guess you could say that there really wasn't any giant large result, but it definitely did the job that it was supposed to do. I'll say that. The valerian root and the passion flower both are very good for, if you have like anxiety or tensions like that, it just sort of lets that melt away. It doesn't happen, and that tightness in your chest or whatever just sort of dissipates and stops the hamster wheel in your head. So that was pretty good combo. I used those two. I used lemon balm, and I used catnip in addition to, the two I previously said, the valerian root and the passion flower. The four of those, it was very nice herbal mixture there, sort of herbal alchemy, I guess I'll call it. It was pretty good. Definitely it's not going to taste great. I didn't put any sugar or anything in it because I'm drinking it right before I'm going to bed, so just sort of want the herbs to just do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was very soothing. My muscles felt very relaxed. It was great, actually. I felt like I should maybe drink some of that after a nice workout and then just relax that way, or stretch. Drink some of that and then stretch. I feel like could be very beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing we're talking about is like a super overpowering sort of like intoxication. It's just what the herbs do. It just makes you more relaxed. It does. The chemicals aren't like super crazy. We're not talking about getting messed up here. It's just makes you feel relaxed and lighter in nature. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was very good experience, and I'll say I definitely had some good vivid dreams, and they were a lot more clear than they usually were. I was more in the moment in my dream, and all the haze was gone. There wasn't a lot of haze and fog in the dream. It was just more or less me being there, and when I woke up, it was kind of hard for me to like pinpoint everything of what I did. I have some memories of what was going on, but I really couldn't tell you what I was dreaming about. Still, I have some images and some feelings, and I know it was I know the clarity was there.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like in terms of what you feel you brought back, like even just in terms of feelings, like you said, like you definitely, it's interesting because it's just like you experienced something, but you don't know exactly what you experienced. But like what I was gonna say, like what did it feel like important, valuable, or like extra something? I'm curious.
Yeah, because most of my dreams do, and I have this tendency to like when I dream and go into that state, it's always very intense. I'm a very intense dreamer, so when I'm there and the clarity is working and everything's ticking right, the dreams are very powerful, clear, and it's like sometimes you might be doing something mundane, but the feeling is like it's important that it has to be done or something something strange like that. I mean, I wouldn't say it's very. It's hard because, like I said, I couldn't pinpoint what I was doing exactly. I just know that I was there, I was in the environment, and I have like some images in my head, but they're like so flashy. You know what I mean? They're so flashy. I think some of that is being able to just maybe, it'll come as it does, and
Yeah, yeah.
um, sort of
I'm
like
sure it'll
being
come over
able to
time.
remember more is gonna, obviously take a little bit more focus when I wake up. Is gonna have to be like kind of meditate out of that, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting to think how like working with that plant encourages you to like meditate more because it seems that through meditation you sort of access like the like delicate nature of its precision, so to speak. It's just like it will give you extra vision, but like yeah, meditation is how that vision will reveal itself to you. So in a sense, like you could work with it and not always like use it to its full potential. So like this is me just theoretically going off this and for any of the dream plants really, but I naturally would assume that meditation would be a good way to remember your dreams in general, as well as in addition with a plant that would be calling that part and that habit into action. Because I mean, yeah, like meditating in the morning when you wake up is like super effective, and even just to like do that and go back to sleep for a little bit is actually
Yeah,
something I like to do. But yeah, let's
absolutely.
talk about this just a little bit more. Anything else you want to say, and then we'll pass around the talking stick and get some more introductions, and we'll always go back to this.
Yeah, I was gonna say the synchronicity was
Oh yeah,
the
this
thing.
is
The
this is crazy.
synchronicity.
This is the whole thing right here.
This is the whole thing. The synchronicity was that most of those plants that I went to go buy from, the natural food store in Newark were growing in my backyard. Like, whoever owned this house must have had an herb garden, and there's actually valerian root growing out front, like the valerian plant is growing out front. um, I've got lemon. I have spearmint and catnip growing out there in the old herb garden. So like that's like three of the things that I was gonna. It's like three of the four, but it was good because I picked up some white sage while I was out too. Still have some sea salt and other things that are good.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
White sage sounds good.
what's that, Michelle?
I said white sage is always good.
yeah, I would say overall the dream tea was a success. Um, can't wait to do it again. And yeah, it was definitely a success. If you go,
Dope.
I would say just do it with the right intent. And don't go picking plants and stuff. Like I did a lot of research today before, like a lot of research today. But when was this? A couple of days ago when we did like when I went to go get them. Do your research first. Don't just go willy nilly. Like, oh, I think this looks like that. Like, it took me a lot of like like googling this and like, all right, here's the plant, here's the taxa, here's the kingdom, here's the family, and then matching up and a lot of learning had to go involved there. But yeah, I would definitely would say it was a success. Give it a shot.
Cool. Well, thanks for the progress report on that, Kyle. And again, like I definitely for yourself and any of us going through like similar things, like that's totally like good Quest journal stuff to sort of document as well. So keep that in the back of your mind. And I know
Yeah,
you've been putting up some good posts on Facebook, and I did want to mention to just sort of keep in mind like how any of us can sort of develop a habit of like not always like posting to Facebook, but then being able to replicate some of it into Quest journals and stuff, and
yeah,
just
I know. I've been
with
slacking
extra.
on that, and I need to get a couple out there. I need to really put some
I
good
think
work forth.
the stuff that you already got is like stuff that can be like sort of even just like dropped in and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I'm
So
gonna have to.
yeah, like they're
I'm
already
gonna have to
Quest
get
journals,
something.
just only on Facebook right now is the only. Yeah, so but I mean
Yeah,
like that's just like a habit that like because I was thinking about that like the idea of for myself and for more of us just to like instead of jumping to Facebook to make the post first, like jump to Paradigm Shift Central to make the post first, and then just like developing that habit, and then you literally send the link to Facebook, which then brings stuff back to the website anyways. So, so I want to get more in the habit of like doing that and getting more into dream journaling again, sharing dream journaling. I really enjoy doing that. So yeah.
Great idea, Skull, because I've been wanting to write more. Like I've been busy, crazy, and missing writing. And the other day I put on my computer and I actually just put up Word, and I put up like, full view where it's just Word. I'm like, this is cathartic. This was like earlier in this year, like doing that was like cleansing for me. So like using the live as a platform of like a journal, and like giving yourself that ritual of time to do that, or write down your dreams or whatever that is. Because with Facebook, like more like, not prestigious, that's not the word, where you're conscious of like, you're self-conscious more, because that's like everybody that you know is like in one sense. But like with free write on LiveNet, because it's like our family, and then maybe something beautiful will come out that you would want to share, like post to Facebook, to use it like an actual journal. That's like a good idea.
Yeah, definitely, and totally, like that's what we're doing. That's what's happening. So it's good to.
That's what's happening.
That's what's happening. Yeah, and honestly, guys, like I know the website's not perfect. As we move forward, I'll have more time to refine it as we go. The important thing is it is functionable. It is functional. It does do what it is. It's like any video game. It goes through versions, and I would say in this version, we're still within room for improvement. So it's not quite a beta, but it is still a beta. But everything, I mean, even for those people who have been around to the Paradigm Shift project in a while, you can actually like think back to like all like the evolutions of the website and stuff. So it's pretty exciting that we do have this and that it is working, and I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff coming through it. So again, reminding anybody who's tuned into this that the main website, you can create your profile, and that gives you access to the Quest journals and also to create conscious articles. So creating those, and this is like good information to share with you guys, because I'm just gonna click on just like recent articles. So this is an article by like Michael Brazel that he posted the other day. Sorry, Michelle, you just got feedback coming through on yours, FYI. What's that? Oh, yeah, okay.
I said I will meet.
Cool. So yeah, I was just going to say this, and then I'll pass it around and do more introductions. But like, as an example of the website working well, Michael Brazel put up a post on June 28th, so 2 days ago, when we were doing our Dreamcast, and that post, which I honestly have not shared other than the automation through live, like the LiveNet on Facebook. Wow, that was a really loud firework outside, so that's why everyone's barking, in case people were wondering. It's almost Canada Day, so we celebrate Canada Day on July 1st. I know a lot of people get confused about that, because sometimes people think we celebrate Canada Day on America Day. That's a common mistake. We don't celebrate Canada Day on America Day. We celebrate Canada Day on Canada Day. So happy Canada Day and happy America Day to people on July 4th.
Oh my goodness. I was getting ready to say, I didn't know. I mean, like, it's Canada Day, like, like July 4th, 1776 is a date that happened. Is there Canada Day for like that, or what?
I'm not exactly sure why July 1st is our Canada Day. I'm sure something happened. So yeah, we don't really have. But we did burn down your White House, so we got that going for us. So. That ddid happen back in the 1812s. So a lot of people always like root back to that. They're like Canada, eh? And just like, oh yeah, there was like Eskimos, and then Canadians just like, remember that time when we burned down your White House? And they're just like, like, I don't know, it does something. So
yeah, well, I mean that is a thing. It happened.
That's what I mean. I didn't do it, but it happened. It's a thing. Okay, so anyways, going back to Michael Brazel's post, but it's good to laugh, trust me. His post got 56 views within the time that it went up just through LiveNet without the additional relay, other than the automatic one that comes through the LiveNet Facebook page. And if that didn't make sense, let me just explain that in a different way. We have a Facebook page on Facebook, and it is facebook.com/paradigm shift livenet, and I'll post a link for that because, like, honestly, that is something that for people who are going to be involved with this project are going to want to know about. And if you go to that Facebook page, but don't just like it. If you just like it, then that kind of defeats the purpose. Literally go to it, and then over top of the liked button, you turn on your notifications. So you turn it to see first and notifications on. So I'm going to post a link to that in the live chat for this broadcast. So if people who are listening, they can actually see that in the team building, the team live chat, and I'll just post a link for you guys. But I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But anyways, going through there, that Facebook page automatically delivers new posts through the website. So when any of you guys post a quest journal, it will automatically go on this Facebook page. And right now there's about 258 people, but presumably a decent amount of those have the see first notifications on through their Facebook. So without this having to sound too convoluted, this is how social media works, which is like a big part of, honestly, this project, and it is the team building hangout where we do get to talk about them as well, like all sorts of social media strategy amongst other things. But anyway, so like, yeah, anytime you guys post there, it goes through that automatic Facebook page, and through that, in addition to just like audience in general, Michael Brazel's post has been seen 56 times within 2 days. So that's pretty good. And other posts, again, you know, like they're different numbers, and I encourage you guys to play this game with the intention of your posts like being seen by more people, and not to do it as like a form of like competition, but literally do it as a point, like as a way to like score points. And scoring points is like being able to invite people to read what you expressed, and also connecting them with other people's content. So like by promoting your own content when you post something on the website, and just like sharing it on your Facebooks, and even in the thousands of Facebook groups that there are right now, which is like our additional outlet for like connecting with new people in the team, that is how you can sort of like keep track of not just like trying to get numbers, but trying to write a successful like quest journal, create a successful form of media that is reflected through like people enjoying it, and thus its numbers being, you know, represented through that. So yeah, if you guys, I just want to open up the microphone just on that topic. If you guys have any other questions or anything, but I know we're still going around in introductions, but stuff being automated through Facebook, encouraging you guys to post on there, keeping track through the numbers, the counters. There is a way to, I'll just mention this now. You'll notice on some posts, not all posts, at the bottom of them, there's a little number counter, and that's how I can literally see how many posts, like how many people have read Michael Brazel's thing. If you go up to the top of like the website where it says unique visitors, you'll see the exact same type of counter. If you click on either of those, it links you to a website which is like a counter making website that's totally free. And then, this is important, for anybody creating their own quest journal, like i.e. you guys and any of the audience in the future, go to that new website, and it's EZ, like as an E-ZEE, internet.com, and then you'll see the, like, choose a free style for a counter, select the red one, copy paste your URL into that information, and then click on no in terms of does the site contain adult, illegal, or hate-related content, and then does the site contain any gambling and stuff. You click no on those, and then you click get your code. So anyways, this is just the shortest way of me explaining how you get your HTML code, and then you copy that into your quest journals when you switch it into HTML edit mode within your quest journal, and then you just drop that at the bottom. So if you guys can do that, that's actually like, it's worth knowing that you guys can do that, because honestly, if you guys can do that, that just saves me the extra step, and in the future, like, it's kind of just like a little extra thing, but now that you guys know how to do it, you can do that with your future quest journals as you get into the habit of doing them. So anyways, that's just a little like extra tidbit of like how this website operates, among other things. But again, I just want to open the questions. Does that make sense, guys? If you can confirm for me if that makes sense to you, and if otherwise, just ask questions, or we'll clarify this and then move on. So
put a counter at the end of your article thing, but I you know, I don't know. It would be cool to have instructions, I guess.
Yeah,
Somewhere.
I'm gonna just like hop this over to screen share real quick. So I'm just going to show you guys like real quick anyways. So people watching the live screen share, you can see like, so right now, right now, like this is a website, and then this is like this one's already got a counter. So this one is 75. So I can either click on the counter at the bottom, or I can scroll to the top and click to where it says unique visitors. And then like opening that takes me to this website, and then I want to like copy the URL into this website, and I want to click on like the red counter and then drop in the code, click no, get code. So it only takes like less than 10 seconds. And then you got your code, and then from there you're back on the website, and you got your edit button up there at the top, and then that will take you into the option to use HTML mode as well. So yeah, and if it's in HTML, if it's not in HTML mode, the button's up at the top right. I know you can't see my mouse right now. And then at the bottom, you just copy and paste it into there and update, and that's pretty much it. So that's a super quick tutorial. Okay, there's your tutorial. So there, honestly, like it's just a little thing, but I wanted to be able to tell you guys about it eventually, and I probably will just make a small little video in the future, just as a little extra thing. But yeah, I hope that makes sense, guys. And if you do have any questions, you can ask me about it later. Other than that, let's keep going around the circle, and we'll pass it over to Michelle in terms of just aloha, Michelle. And yeah, please introduce yourself and tell us how the shift in consciousness has been looking from your perspective, what you've been up to, projects going on, how many podcasts you've done today.
2 podcasts today.
Just a couple.
And I've had 3. Oh, can you hear me? Yeah, you can. I've had just a couple of podcasts today. We did one with Zulu Flow Zion, and it was Paul, and then my new friend Ethan, who's a co-host on the Way of Conscious Mindfulness podcast. Who it's cool. We're both on different coasts, so he's in like Oregon coast, and I'm on Florida coast. Which I will be moving soon, which is a whole other thing. But so that podcast was really, really good. It's just starting out. So if any of the audience members of this podcast want to check us out over there, it's called The Way of Conscious Mindfulness. And it was a really good conversation today. It was very heartfelt. It was like, what else? It was alive, you know? Like it was like a living thing, like everybody was giving their perspective, but we were still focusing on the way of what this man Zulu Flow brought to, like, and his medicine that he carried, and what his perspective of consciousness is. And we got into this discussion of archetypes and how we all bring our different archetypes, like, through our way of being. And they talked about him having a king archetype and doing all these people. So anyway, so it was a good show. But I'm supposed to be talking about me, not so much everybody else. So let's see.
Well, that was about you. I mean, thumbs up, because it's what you did. It's what you took part in creating, which is, and yeah, I'd love to get some more automation so that new episodes from that are going up through Paradigm Shift. So,
oh, okay.
Either if you or Paul actually want to get in the habit of automating that,
I can do that,
because that'll bring in like new listeners too. We can go over that later if you need any help with it. But
sure. We'll do that offline. Yeah, because that's a good idea too. Because like I said, I wanted to do more writing. So I can definitely do that and feed the LiveNet thing myself. As far as writing goes, I had a little liberation or a breakthrough. I was published, and Skull, you were really cool by promoting this and being so cool about it. You wrote a comment under my thing. I was published on Rebel Society, which is a like a feminist online magazine with like 20,000 subscribers and such. It was an article on unconditional love, basically, but unconditional wholeness and love, which I'm now going to write a part 2. I'm kind of in the process of writing a part 2 of this article that's formulating itself, and so that was really beautiful to be published on like a big magazine and to step into my authorship. And what I'm planning on creating and writing and etc. Is I have a book that I'm working on, and I'm working on synthesizing all of the articles that I've written over the last 3 years into like a formulated book, and I want to do that. But in order to create anything, you have to do it frequently. So again, like writing more, like just putting out poetry and putting out different things that are small, just to get in that rhythm of like making that a part of my sacred practice. Because a big intention over the last month that happened to me was that I want 2 things. I'm teaching more now. I just taught 2 yoga classes in the last couple of days. I'm teaching another one in the library at the 9th, which is cool, which I'm getting paid for, which is wonderful. And I drove by the library today to see the room, you know, to scope out the room so I know what to bring to try to make it look not like a library room with a bunch of office chairs in it, but like a yoga studio. And they have this cool thing on like the letterboard, you know, that thing under churches, and it's like Introduction to Yoga, June 9th, and I'm like, I took a picture of it. It's super cool. So I stopped teaching for a while just because of whatever, and so now it's like I feel like we're starting a new cycle, new phase of energy, and I'm like just going back to like my home, which is yoga, which I'm really in like owning for the first time, I think, more in my life, because it's like when you do something and then it goes away from you and then it comes back. It's like love, you know, like when if you set it free and then it comes back, and it's like a part of me now. So I'm recognizing that, so I'm stepping into that, and I'm also stepping into doing my sacred practices as a way to get better at them, to get divine at them, because I want to, and what I am going to do in this next few months, this next 6-month cycle, is I'm going to travel, and I'm going to be traveling out west, and I would like to bring my mantra medicine, my yoga teaching. I want to do healings for people. I want to be guided and be contacted by others who want me to come and who want to share circle space and do sacred ceremony in places. Eventually, I see myself doing that in like a great scale, but like this is like the first venture into that direction. So I'm writing more, I'm teaching yoga, and I think that's it. So that's what I've been working on and creating. Yeah, and doing podcasts and being here. And so, yeah. That's my shift in consciousness.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the update, Michelle. That's super cool.
Gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you have I mean, you did already kind of say it, just like in terms of like what you're working on in the future and stuff like that. Was there any other projects that you're working on that you might not have mentioned, or?
Yeah, think of that. What else was there that I didn't say? Yeah, I mean, like, I'm going on the road, so we'll see. Like, California, it might be. Yeah, I know that you have a hookup with California. Can I just say synchronicity-wise? I mean, like, I really don't know what the tour, because you have talked about this, like that dream of like going and visiting people who are. Oh, I should use our map and stuff like that.
There you go.
Word. Yeah. So there's that. So and putting it out. So as I'm going to be, I just moved. That's a huge thing. I just moved. I was living in this beach place for like 2 years, and the frequency shift that, you know, Mars going direct instead of retrograde, like, it's just time for me to move on. But I know I don't want to settle down. I want to discover like who I am and what community I can serve, and I want to see the West Coast. I've just known I was going to take this journey for a very long time, and so now it's time to take that journey. And as I reach out to people, I like did a little post on Instagram about it. I got 3 hits for California like right away. Meanwhile, I was thinking I'm going to Sedona, like Grand Canyon. You know, I'm seeing myself maybe end up in the mountains, but like right away, California. So it's really about like letting the universe lead and stepping into faith and like going one step at a time, and then seeing what, like a discovery process of like seeing where I'm called to teach and be and learn, right? Because it's always learning, because it's like teaching, yeah, I want to bring my medicine, but like really I'm here to learn how I can serve. Like with the yoga thing, like it's more like this is medicine that I carry. I just did a couple classes, and like totally the energy work that I do, there's the combination of like an energy work, so it's more than just yoga, you know. It's like wisdom medicine, channeling energy. It's all this. It's therapy in a way, and so that's a vehicle where I can bring healing energy through that. And so it's perfect because yoga is like accessible for people. So if I can do those rituals like around the country, like that would kick ass. That would be like a kick ass traveling thing to do. And then there's festivals in the late summer, so I'm kind of just seeing where I'm going to be called and who's going to call me, and what's going to line up in synchronicity. Like, and I also want to go to Shasta and different like sacred locations, because I think that going to vibrational vortexes is like a part of my soul calling. So all that too.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's super exciting, Michelle. Like anything to do with traveling, that I always get excited about that because it's such just like it's such like a great way to learn how to trust. And you're just like you get excited about like the synchronicities, knowing that they're just like always around the corner, and you're just like, let's go to a random place, and you're just like, who am I gonna meet this time? And then yeah, no, so I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time.
I want to. Well, you'll be hearing. I mean, I'll be checking in and doing podcasts and everything like while I do it, and I know and I want to and create content, about traveling and journeying and being on,
Mm-hmm.
that road of like learning of the student of life, and I learned that, and as you do travel, you are more in communication with the universe in a deeper way because you're like listening louder, as opposed to when you're in your humdrum routine of like an office or a building or a house or whatever that is. When you're living on a higher frequency, I'm more attuned. Or that's my prayer. I mean, it's happened when I've traveled in the past, so we'll see what this is. We'll see where this journey takes us together, all of us, as we
Mm-hmm.
go. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and especially, like for yourself and anyone else, just like taking a moment to like reflect on the role of the archivist, because it's such a beautiful thing to be able to like to be a testament of like the fact of what experiences and what magic has actually unfolded. So it's like one thing for it to happen and for us to know it, but just to be able to like, yeah, I'm basically just talking about intentionally being a gonzo journalist, more or less, and whatever that means to you, and just bringing the camera with you, and yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see like all the different ways of how we can tell story, and especially when we're doing road trips. So
you know what I want to mention that's kind of like not an antithesis to that idea, but and it's something that goes into you with your sacred 5G mushroom journey, where we have these sacred experiences, and some of them are not supposed not supposed to be shared, but like
mm-hmm.
it's like you go into downtime, and I do that a lot. And so something that I don't want to say struggled with, but like danced in between is like how much of myself do I share publicly, and how much is my own experiences just between me and
Yeah,
God. Yeah,
totally,
like a
totally.
huge thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like that's like the more you work with the camera, like the more it like really pushes like your decision making in terms of like when it's there and stuff like that. But I mean like again, just expanding ideas and stuff like that for people who may sort of be in a place where just like, I'm not entirely comfortable with sharing my journey, but it's great to just be able to like go around and sort of like share like little snippets of other people's journeys who you meet along the way. And there's actually on the website, on the Paradigm Shift Central website, for people when they get a chance, I really encourage them to go and look at the Quest Journal by our friend Max, and it's called wow, I forgot how far back it scrolls back here. Unless you, oh, wow, okay, I think I might have overlooked it. No, there it is. If you go back to June 9th, there's a Quest Journal entry, and it's my journey through Europe, finding a new way of life. And it's basically just like him traveling through Europe, but he's like making these little vlogs, and they're really more focused on just like the people who he's meeting as well, and he's like spending time on like different farms and like meeting different artists, and yeah, it's really like a cool just like example of like things that can be done in terms of going on adventures and bringing a camera. But totally, like I agree, like I totally acknowledge and agree that like being there without a camera and like without having to like worry about documenting and totally just like recording it through your experience is like super important, and I love doing that and stuff like that. So yeah.
Like some interpersonal stuff that you go through with people is like hard to translate onto camera, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you get in your head about like what, like I was just imagining as you were saying that, like me in the Grand Canyon, right? And like, so of course I'm gonna want to sing, and I'm gonna want to, like I did when I was in Nepal, and there's something beautiful about recording and singing and doing a prayer for the people, because people need to see it. And then another segue I want to just say is I saw like a little snippet. Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, is one of my favorite authors. And I saw like in an Oprah magazine today, actually, when I went to the library to check out the yoga room, and it said it said like, oh my God, her article made me realize that there's hope for blah 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 blah. And I was like, that's why you need to write more, is because this is it's medicine for people who are suffering. Like you need to put your shit out there because it's important. So yeah, it's like you talk about all the time about like the call to leadership. You know, you have to do it because you have to do it. But sometimes you get in your head about like, I'm gonna make this, you know, and it takes you out of like being in the moment. So I want to bridge. That would be like a really cool intention to have, is to like learn how to get that synthesis by you know, by doing it, by living it. So.
Yeah, it's totally it's something I'm really interested in, because I feel there's just a lot of potential when more people like in a moment can be able to like turn the camera on, you know, like if there is a moment where suddenly the universe is just like, this is happening and like it's gonna go by fast, and if you're not ready for it, then you know, and so there's like windows of opportunity, and so it's just, yeah, the camera for me is a very metaphysical thing, especially when you think about it. It's this idea of it's literally, and they even talk about this in Waking Life, and I love how they talk about it. There's like one discussion, and the guy like turns into a cloud by the end of it, but you know, it's just like capturing like individual moments of God in just like succinct frame and everything. Like every single frame is just like a moment of God, like a moment, and he says it in a really cool way. But yeah, like literally, like it's so easy for us to just like perceive it from the material idea. It's just like, oh, it's a camera, it's like recording things, it's video. It's so common, it's so normalized now that we sort of like, if you step back and you're just like, oh my God, you know, like when I'm filming something, like I'm filming God dancing on stage, and like that can be anything. That can be anything. It's in that moment. So yeah, cameras are like time traveling, dimensional wrapping tools that we can use, and storytelling portals. So like our role as storytellers, as shifters, is like one of our superpowers. And and video isn't the only way to tell a story. So I mean, you know, like inspiration that you get on your journey can become a beautiful thing for a book that you end up writing a year later or something like that. It's all recorded in here, and you know, express it when you feel the call, and that's kind of, yeah, that's exciting though.
So beautiful, because number one, stories, like our role as storytellers being sacred, is really important, really, really, really important, and totally a superpower. And how we're going to change the world, especially you and I and all of the shifters with telling our stories of how we're developing our consciousness, like hands down. That's how we have the weight versus like the mass media, you know, like in their story of what they believe truth is about fear and scarcity consciousness, and our story about synchronicity and the universe having your back and everything's cool. And we can relax into that, because that is going to be needed so much over the next like 5-10 years for sure. But something I had a realization on like earlier yesterday or today, and you obviously do this because you're on Facebook all the time and like social media all the time, is making it sacred, versus like the mental construct of making it like something that you're doing for your business, or something that you're doing in order to reach out to people, or something that you're doing because you're lonely, or something that you're doing to promote yourself, or whatever it is. But as opposed to making it like a more, like over the last week, I've had a shift where I'm like sharing from my soul more, my heart more, with the conscious intent of like, I'm doing this for a purpose of connecting, and because it's my sacred duty, it's my dharma, and this is a part of it, and this is my voice, and I have to honor my voice. And in a way, like if you want to think about like self-esteem, like I'm honoring my voice and my opinion and my validity as a soul, and expressing myself. And I just like had that, and it changes that, as opposed to any other head trip you would put on Facebook. And that's beautiful to say, like that is, it's just a recognition that anything you do, if you wrap your mind around it in a way that makes it holy, then you're making it holy. And the one other thing I want to say, just because this is totally the place to say it, is and for anybody else who is going through change at this moment, because there's a huge changes going on. I left this place that I lived, that it was my favorite place, and I could not imagine, as I knew that I was leaving it, I could not imagine that I would ever live anywhere else, that I would ever be happier anywhere else, because it was like this kick-ass apartment with this giant window, and it was just a really beautiful place. And however, I'm staying for a month. I'm staying in my girlfriend's place across the street in her little beach house. And I left all the stuff. I took all the stuff out of my place and I set my little grid frequency here. And when I went back, it was just a room and it was just building and it was hollow and it looked like the past. And I was like so excited for the future. I came here and it was my home. And I was like, it's where our intention, we imbue things with our intention. So whatever thing we give, whatever potency we imbue whatever with, it's the power is within us. So nothing that no job, nothing that is like anything I don't know. The future is always better. The future is always. Yeah, I think I said it. I think I transmitted it because I ran out of whatever juice that was. But it's so important that people go into these changes because they will be good for you, and that's all I have to say. So.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, child, things are gonna be easy. Ooh, child, things are gonna be bright. Someday. Walking the way.
I knew we were going to say.
Yeah, it's funny because like it's really hard to sing on this because like it's out of sync, but like it's just like whatever, I don't care. Someday the world is much brighter. And then it like goes like really hard. Well, actually, we went pretty hard there, so.
I love you.
We go hard, so I love you too. Yeah, like it's an interesting thing though to think that like I guess that's a question though, but like is it always going to get better? What does better mean? You know, is that just like more of an evolved relationship between ourselves and things? Could something be worse and yet still be better based on the individual? But I'd definitely say that the future is evolving us closer to like more opportunities for expansion. So yeah, and then it's like I guess the alternative is just like expansion and contraction, which I guess is okay because it's not even when you're contracting, you're still expanding. Because it's more of like a spiral process opposed to like a back forward. Like you're always kind of like moving forward, but then like you're like breathing. You're kind of like this like giant like tube snake flying through space that's like and that's like you like expanding and contracting. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Maybe.
So the Book of Runes says the new life is always. They say when you're talking about gestating and dying, remember the new life is always greater than the old.
The new ways are always greater than the old. Is that what it says?
The new life is always going to be greater than the old. So don't cling to the old. And that's basically the punchline of what I wanted to tell people who are going through changes. It's don't resist it because like you won't be able to see that sometime. Yeah, so that's it. That's my wisdom there.
Cool.
Don't resist.
Don't resist.
Go forward.
Yeah.
Be happy.
It's a very powerful thing to move forward with like that because that like definitely helps us step into our courage when we just sort of like switch our paradigm of just like having those ideas in mind. So yeah, definitely. Cool. I mean, it's basically that idea that the universe has your back, like just like summed up into that. It allows you to just like do stuff. So I mean, yeah, like even with my own experience, like working with the 5-gram sacred mushrooms, it was just kind of like I felt good going into it. So it's just like all right, like you know, like knowing that the universe has my back, and even still, like maybe the universe having my back could have meant like a bad trip or something like that, because maybe that could have been what I was supposed to have. But like even just being like open to that, it's just like all right, universe, like you know, like I am ready to accept what you are here to give me, and just like with gratitude, and then just like again, you know, applying that to like experiences far beyond the psychedelic experience in itself. And again, if people are curious and tuned into the broadcast at this point, there is a secret video going around of my 5-gram psychedelic sacred mushroom experience, and in order to see that, it is available right now through the team Patreon, or at least it will be literally in the next couple hours after I post this, and after I post that, and again, like it's like really. Like I know even like filming it and watching it, like it's very rare footage, and it is like footage of like this like like very rare and sacred, because it's like within this like space that was created through the ceremony of just like from my own perspective, I'm just like thinking about it right now. Like, I mean, my words will only be able to explain so much, but yeah, the mushroom experience is something that in this situation allowed me to like viscerally see the dream, the dreamness of this reality being very apparent. It wasn't just like, oh, this like looks super cool or something like that. It's just like this blatantly feels like what dreams feel like. And so it's just this idea that like even right now in our physicalness, we literally are still in that dream space. And we just don't always feel like we are, but psychedelics can like literally bring that feeling to the surface because it kind of pulls back the filters that convince us that we're not always in a dream space, in the same way that when we're actually in a dream we convince ourselves that we're not in a dream space either. So it kind of like works in both levels. So again, if people are interested in that video right now, it's available through the team Patreon, and again, patreon.com/Brendan Culleton. And it's a huge shout out on the Patreon because we did reach our monthly goal for 600 by the end of today, and we're at 602, which means our next milestone will be 700 by the end of July. And July is going to be an exciting month because they'll also have the opportunity for Patreon supporters to get early access to Journey to Lucidity 3, and I'm going to try and finish that and get a version of it online before my birthday, or on my birthday, which is July 18th. So like that's my intention right now. So it's like, all right, I got 18 days to like finish this, and I feel like I've got a lot on it. There's just like, yeah, I think I can do it. So again, huge shout out to all the Patreon supporters. Sign up when you can. It's as little as $3 a month. Gets you just a booster kit, and that's even right now. I got those. You can kind of see them on the table and stuff, or on my side table of the shift buttons. And I can always explain those later, but right now we'll just keep moving along here. And we actually do have a new player who joined the game. Michael Brazel is here. So, hey, Michael, how's it going?
Doing great. How about you?
Good, man. Good. We're getting some good conversations and
Awesome.
everything. So good. Yes. We're still doing our introductions and stuff, and again, you know, we're just kind of sharing what we have been up to in our journeys, and it's cool because it gives us a chance. Even when, you know, when I ask you, it's just like, what have you been up to lately? It gives you a chance to like say things that you yourself almost need to hear for yourself, because you're just like, what have I been up to? And you say that, it's just like, oh yeah, I've been doing that, or like, oh yeah, I did this, or oh yeah, I intend to do that. So it's a good practice. For the spirit to be able to ask what it's doing and what it's done and where it's going, I feel. So group discussion and mirror techniques all around. We'll pass over to Sean in a minute, but Michelle, is there anything else that you want to just say in this moment before we pass the talking stick?
Oh, well, I can say one more thing that came up actually. I saw it on, it's about the buttons. I saw something about the Icarus kid from the Instagram, and him going on a journey, and I happened to see that on yesterday, and I was thinking that I should get the buttons from you in order to do that, but I actually don't know who he is, and he Instagrammed me as well, so I was wondering if there was like a synchronicity there or something.
Oh, interesting. He messaged you, eh?
He like followed me on Instagram or hearted me. There was some connection, and then I did it back because there was like one of those electricity things, you know, where you just know. You're like, oh, that actually, you know what? He looks like a kid in Guatemala that I hung out with, and I thought it was him. And I was like, oh, but I don't think it is. And then I saw him on yours, and then you actually wrote something that said like a big thing about him and the buttons, and I was like, what? My brain, you know.
Did he just heart? Because I tagged you in a post. Did this just happen, or is
No,
this further?
it was like before, within the last few weeks. And then I saw it again. So
so before I even put up the post, then yeah, that makes that's awesome then. Yeah, yeah, totally. Like exactly. Like that's a really cool story because like he's traveling across America, similar to you, very soon, and he leaves on the 5th, and like I like had to get the buttons to him, and we ended up like paying for like FedEx, so we actually like ended up paying like so much for the buttons, but like they're gonna get there on time. So it's just like because I wanted to make it happen for him, because I was just like, if I don't get it to him then he wouldn't have them, but it's gonna happen, and yeah, I'm excited for him because having shift buttons when traveling, like they're easy ways to meet anyone. Literally having those, it's just like see a stranger, it's just like not anymore. Like you can go over and, you know, just turn them into friends. So it's pretty powerful. Hey, there's a bug on my hand, guys. I don't know where he came from, but he's here now.
Okay, so
And he jumped away.
I love those
Sorry, one second. Hey, Dustin, we're just gonna mute your thingamajig.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Just plug the headphones in when you get a second. What's that, Michelle?
I gotta throw down for some buttons apparently because I love those little green bugs.
Oh. I'll get you some buttons, Michelle. When do you leave?
Word. Not for a month. I felt like I'm going
Perfect.
from like the next. Yeah, I won't make you FedEx them to me.
Okay.
But so that Icarus kid is going from the west to the east, or no?
Florida. He's leaving from Florida.
He's not leaving from Florida.
Yeah, he is. Takamatsu, Florida, or something. So it's what is it? It's not that.
Because I thought pictures of him he was in
He's
Florida,
in
and
Tequesta, Florida.
Florida?
Yeah,
All right,
are you still in Florida?
Yeah.
Are you anywhere near Tequesta? Tequesta? Well, maybe you are. Maybe he's on the team map already. He may be. He should be.
Yeah, well, now that I know he's in Florida, obviously I'm supposed to hang out with him.
That's funny. Well, he's leaving on America Day, so. Actually, he's not. But I just want to say. He's leaving on like July 6th, I think. So.
Good day.
Michael,
I've never heard of
July 4th America Day now, by the way, just so you're in on the joke. It's just yeah. There's Canada Day and then there's America Day. So, but apparently you guys don't call it that, which I think is weird because I totally think you should. Going through the 11/11 Stargate portal, just want to give a shout out. Just went through that 11/11 while laughing, while having a good time. So, yeah. Okay, Michelle.
So,
yeah. Any last thing, and then we'll pass it around.
Last thing, 11/11, and I'm totally driving through that area, so we'll see. I'm going to be driving through that area soon, so we'll see. Tequesta.
Cool. Awesome. Well,
Nothing else. Nothing else. No, I love you. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Okay. Thanks again, Michelle. And again, for people tuning in and they're just like, how do I get more of this Michelle character in my life? We'll include the links into the show notes. It's cool when like people become like channels that you can tune into. It's just like, what do I want to watch on TV? It's just like, who do I want to like see? Whose lives do I want to see? Like literally we're all on one big live broadcast network sort of thing. So infiniteeverything.net is her main website, though. I can tell you that. So again, Michelle Infinity on Facebook, and you'll find the links for herself and anybody else in the show notes for the Paradigm Shift Team Building Hangout for June 30th. So yeah, in addition to that, guys, there's basic stuff that I can mention, but I'll do it later. In the meantime, let's keep going around and getting some more people joining in the conversation. And Sean, are you still there? Like, you literally, your video feed dropped out. Did your audio feed drop out? Because I was going to see, based on order, if Sean wanted to jump in, but he may be back in a second. So with that said, I'd be happy to pass it over to Michael Brazel. And again, just kind of like using this space as an opportunity to say what we as shifters have been up to, and any projects that we might be working on, and just like the exciting stuff that's going on and what we're learning and what we got planned moving forward. So, Michael, go ahead and jump right in. Here's the talking stick for you. So, it's good to see you again.
Awesome. Yeah, good to see you again. It's like we were just here.
Just here.
We've always been here, right? So what's going on? Like, lots of stuff going on. So I'm going to DC in a couple days now, actually, to do some meditation and yoga and all kinds of good stuff, and lots of stuff happening here in South Carolina now. This is an interesting area for spirituality. It's slightly backwards, but it's catching up to itself, which is really great to see. Like, all these really spiritual people are coming to the area and igniting these little bubbles of love. So it's shifting things here, which is nice. I'm working on integrating a lot of my yoga work with a lot of my work as a witch. So I started a new site called Bhakti Witch, and it's BHAKTI, witch.com. And Bhakti is the yoga of love and devotion. And I find like that's kind of where my practice has been shifting over the past few years. So I'm making lots of, my whole path now is to be more integrated. Because the more integrated you are, the more authentic you are. And the more authentic you are, the more you get to experience this thing called life in its fullness, you know. So, you know, just putting out a bunch of new stuff. I posted a Quest journal update on the Paradigm Shift Live site. I'll be doing more of that. So I'm trying to put like these little things out there everywhere so people can follow the journey. And when I do my blog, like you can find me on michaelbrazel.com. And then there's all like the tons, and like I think we had 400 hours worth of audio for the radio show that I have on Blog Talk as well. So there's lots of ways to find me, so much stuff out there. But right now I'm just focusing on doing this new yoga thing, you know, integrating yoga and magic and using the body as a tool to access that magic. It's often the part that gets left out. Like people want to do these like really grand rituals and they want to like, you know, effect and manifest, but it starts here. Like love starts at home, so you have to love the body first. Let the body be the vehicle through which we access those deeper levels and layers of magic. It goes back to that phrase that was over the Oracle of Adelphi's, you know, space, you know thyself. And the more you know yourself, the more you can wield and project that magic out into the world. So just some powerful stuff moving in that space for me. You know, when I'm not doing that, I'm just watching the dogs, you know. Just watching the dogs live and play. That's my meditation. I learn more about God by watching my dogs than I have like ever reading any book.
What do they teach you? Like,
you know, it's like
the top 3 things that dogs teach us about
God,
life.
They teach you
God,
love,
they teach
you
us
know?
about God.
It's like they do. It's like God backwards, right? They teach you like this unconditional love, but they also teach you separation. Like you understand that longing because, you know, the minute I go to walk out the door, I'm just gonna go run some errands. One of my little dogs, she just kind of sits at the door and it's like your heart breaks because there's this look in her eyes. You just see this love, and she knows like you're going. And the minute you step out the door, like you cease to exist, you know. But the minute you walk back in, all that love is still there. You know, it's like this unbreakable chain of love that just exudes from them. You know, I think that's the biggest thing that I learned from my dogs. You know. And we can learn that from just like looking at trees and stuff. I think too often we spend so much time with screen addiction. Like we're so addicted to our computers and our gadgets and our cell phones and our whatnots that we forget like there's this whole like really fantastic world out there that's just waiting for us to show up. And you know, just walking around and seeing everyone on their cell phones and no one's like watching. Like I was at Whole Foods today and there's these amazing colors in the sky. Like no one was looking at these amazing colors in the sky. It's like these beautiful pinks and purples and blues, and the clouds were all these like really cool shades and shapes and colors, and everyone was looking at their cell phones, and I was like, man, you know, we're missing out on this. And then even earlier it was raining. It just was raining a little bit. Everyone was like running to get out of the rain, and I was like running into the rain. You know, it's like we take for granted the fact that we have this opportunity to feel the rain on our skin. You know, and one day we're not going to have that chance anymore. You know, so my whole thing now is not taking those moments for granted. It's not missing out on those things, those times to connect. It's like that's the most important thing for me now, is connecting. And however that manifests.
So,
Cool, man.
Yeah.
I had a really weird experience once relating to rain.
Go ahead, Evan.
I lived in Hawaii when I was a little kid. I was about, I guess, 7. And we lived in a neighborhood that had 2 mountains that came together. They were shaped like an L, sort of. And there was a jeep trail that went all the way up to the top right between the mountains. And at the top between the 2 mountains was a little flat place, and it used to be a horse corral there. And all that's left of it, concrete trough and a gate, the posts for a gate, a swinging gate. The fence was gone. And my next door neighbor, a girl named Allison, She was like my best friend. She was 12. She said, "Let's take a hike up the trail and have lunch." So we get a backpack on. We get peanut butter sandwiches and whatnot, and we track up this trail going uphill all the way. It's about a mile long, and all the weird thing was all the way up the trail, all the tall grass growing on both sides of the Jeep trail was laid down going uphill, as if somebody had driven up the hill in a Jeep with a big, long, really like a 14-foot wide 2x4 chained to the back of the Jeep, and as it dragged up the hill, they just laid all the grass down going uphill. And we thought that was strange. So we get up there. There's a boulder that weighed about 4 tons, shaped like a coffin. And we sat on that thing and had our lunch. The gate swang into the wind. Everything about this day was backwards. It was completely backwards. We couldn't figure this out. It was creepy. We were kind of creeped out. So we had our fun, ate our sandwiches, and about 2 hours later we come down the hill. This time we're coming down the trail, and all the grass on both, I'm not telling you a story, this is the truth. Both sides of the trail, the grass on both sides was all laid down going downhill this time. The opposite of when we're going up all the way down this trail about a mile long. We were really freaked out by this, and just about the time we started to get to the end of the trail to get back into the neighborhood, it started to rain. And the wind was blowing hard, and the rain was hitting us all around our fronts because it was coming in at a hard angle, and we were getting rained on in the front but not in the back. And our faces were wet, and our light jackets, this was winter in Hawaii, temperature was like 55 degrees, 58. That's cold, for Hawaii. And we got soaking wet on the front. And so we started to run, and we had only about 100 yards to go, and we ran up under the carport at our house, my house, and we were soaking wet in the back, but we were dry as a board in the front. It was one of the weirdest experiences of my whole life. Everything was completely backwards from what would seem to be reality. And to this day, I'm 53, to this day I've never figured it out how it was possible.
Interesting.
I can't even rationalize it. I just can't figure it out.
Wherever you went, I'm calling it the same thing as a Bermuda Triangle, man. You just went into one of those portals where you went. You must have gone somewhere where quantumly on a quantum physics level, everything was happening just that way. Like,
that could be one way to explain it.
Quantum physics. I like to take a lot of thought and study into quantum mechanics, quantum physics, quantum mathematics. I think it can really. I think it's something that we haven't looked into enough. I think it explains things like Evan's day he had with a friend. I think it can explain a lot of those things. I think it's a phenomena that leaks into the physical world that we are in. It's like a glitch in the matrix. That's
sometimes,
all it is.
Yeah, that's interesting to think. Like, I know there's like
if you've ever seen the Animatrix.
Yeah, I've seen the Animatrix.
All right, that place where they go and they slip into that abandoned building and things aren't just not acting right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say like
what it is.
There's like a subreddit on Reddit, and it's all just sort of about like glitches in the Matrix that people talk about. But I mean, yeah, it's just like, oh, is this something we forgot about or overlooked, or is there like something else like very peculiar? But I mean, the peculiarness of this reality does come through in different ways. That'd be something we want to talk about. I do just want to take a moment here as we keep going around in the circle, and thanks for joining. I just want to give a shout out. We do have a few new players who have joined the game, so shout out to Evan, and thanks for sharing the story. And Johnny's here, and also Dustin as well earlier had popped in for a bit. So I'd like to go around and we'll get some brief introductions, and then we'll just sort of keep popcorning the conversation around. But Michael, I was just curious. I just wanted to like ask you one more thing to pass the talking stick back to you. But because I'm sure people are curious, and they don't always hear like everyone talk about being a witch, and I'm just kind of curious as to like what being a witch means to you. And if that's something you can just like add some clarity to, like in any way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a word that you hear often, especially not one that you hear guys use a lot. Though there are a lot of guys who claim the title of being a witch. And for me, it really just means stepping into my power. Witches, through history, have been edgewalkers. We're the ones who hold the mysteries. We're the ones who collect those insights from the fringes. And part of my path has always been to walk the edge. We can tap into those subtle energies that are around us. We have learned to listen to the earth and the movements of the wind. We can see things, either because it's something we naturally do or it's something we've trained to do. And for me, it's been a little bit of both. I've had the fortune of working with some pretty powerful witches and have studied in some very specific systems to do the work that I do. So not only is my being a witch something that I claim as personal, it's something that I also do as professional. And in the tradition that I practice, the Anderson fairy tradition, it is an ecstatic tradition, which means we are a tradition that believes in those subtle movements. And for us, our gods are as tangible as you are to me. They're real. And for us, everything moves to that place of ecstasy. So a deeper connection to the self, a deeper connection to self-empowerment, self-embodiment, and self-possession. So for me, it's really, to simplify, it would just be stepping into my power and using that word to create a container for that power. And there's a lot that goes into studying witchcraft, and depending on what your interests are, you can go in a variety of different directions with it. But when you wield magic, you can create glitches in the matrix, and that's pretty much what wielding magic does. We can, by will, create those glitches using either ritual, using tools, or practices that have been handed down through time immemorial to do that. So that's what magic is, and I think everyone has the ability to tap into it. We're just all going to call it something different, That's just what it is for me.
Like, when you're talking about some of the stuff you're talking about, like, are you sort of referring to, like, different ways to practice manifesting things? Like, could you give us a couple of examples?
Well, it could be manifesting. It could be as simple as lighting a candle. It could be as simple as saying a mantra to create a very specific outcome. It could be invoking deity. Like for us, when we open up the day, like I start the day by invoking, in our tradition, the star goddess. It's a very specific thing that I do to start my day. It creates intentionality for my day. And it creates a nice container for me to work with that intention. I think, having a little bit of structure sometimes gives us an ability to access manifesting at a deeper level. And it all comes back to intention. That's where magic begins, with intention, and then through intention we can direct our will into the world to create and to manifest. So it really depends on what you want to manifest. So say, for instance, something simplistic would be, if I wanted to manifest more financial abundance for myself, one of the spells that I've taught some of my students is, money's become something that's so intangible. So even just taking some coins and putting them in a little jar and shaking the jar so that you hear the sound of money puts that intention into the physical body, but also into the physical spaces around you. So by shaking the jar, you're calling money into that space for yourself. It could also be breaking a contract. Like after heartbreak, you could light a candle to sever the contract that you may have had with that person you've shared a life with. So, manifesting, I think, is a really broad brush. It all comes back to your intention and your reasons for wanting to manifest. And that's what helps to make manifesting happen, is coming back to intention. So in our practice, we work more with creating intention than working on specific outcomes. Because your outcomes are going to be directed from where you're starting. And too often we try to go to the end goal and try to fix it there. And it's not often the case that you can fix it there, but you can always start where you are.
Cool. Yeah, I was gonna say, anybody feel free to jump in on that. I feel like that's something worth talking a little bit about. So, Michelle, did you want to?
Yeah, I do.
Thanks,
I wanted to ask you how you're combining the practice of witchcraft with bhakti yoga. And
yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've always, in my yoga world, I was always, on the fringe, and even in the witchcraft community, I was always on the fringe. So I was either too new agey for my witch friends, or I was too witchy for my yoga friends. So I was like, well, screw it. I'm just gonna do my own thing and just blend them all together. And in doing that, I've connected a lot of people who are also doing that, but didn't have a way to connect to other people. So I started a blog a long time ago called Yoga Witch. And then someone swooped in and bought out the domain. It lapsed for a day, and someone snatched my domain, right? So I was like, well, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. But in time, my practice had transitioned from one that was just related to yoga to one that was more bhakti centered. And the way I define yoga is it's the process of integration. It's working with breath, body, movement to use the body to harness magic. And since bhakti is that yoga of devotion, for me, when I do my asana practice or my posture work in yoga, it's really honoring the body. It's honoring the self as divine. It's letting my yoga practice be full of purpose. I'm not just doing it to sweat, even though that may be one of the side effects of my practice. I'm wielding my body as this very divine instrument to create movement and connection and integration. So for me, that integration is already there. And a lot of times you see a lot of people trying to separate the magic out of yoga. We just want the physical stuff, but you can't tap into a practice like yoga, even just the physical side of it, without tapping into all of that other stuff. It's there. So for me, it's about bringing it all together. And yoga is a very magical thing. Even just saying the mantras, it's you're doing spell work. It's operative magic. When I say a mantra to Ganesh to remove the obstacles, I'm casting a spell to remove obstacles. If I'm calling on Lakshmi for money because I need to pay my bills, that's doing operative magic. So there really isn't a separation. For me, I'm just calling it what it is, and what it is for me, which isn't going to be what it is, for other people. But this is the way I found for me to create the container for my work that works best for me. And I created the blog so that if there are other people who want to explore those intersections, that they'll be able to follow along, and I'll be putting some spell work, what I call flow casting. So using the flow of our bodies to create magic. So there'll be some spell work and some meditations. I'm doing right now, I'm creating a series of yoga sequences to follow the tarot, the journey of the Fool through the tarot deck. So I'm going to be posting that soon, so people can actually follow the journey of the Fool, right, all the way through the major arcana to the world. So
I would love to do that with you one day, to do something like that, because I was going to do a major arcana deck back in the day, the hero's journey, the same thing. So I would love to go create something in that vein.
Yeah. There's some cool stuff in there when you Aleister Crowley was doing stuff like that. He was a really
Tarot is my favorite deck ever.
Yeah, I use the Thoth deck. It's my favorite deck to use.
You say Thoth? I say Thoth.
People say all kinds of things. It's funny because that deck has so much psychology and intuition and stuff built into it. So it's the perfect deck to like wield magic. And Aleister Crowley was really one of those people. And Israel Regardie was another one who, and all the theosophists really were synthesizing arcane magic with this high-level magic with yoga. Like they saw like where those intersections were.
True.
And it's like it was like Alice Bailey. Like she has a whole book that's her interpretation and commentary on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So it's like this very magical interpretation of the Yoga Sutras, and it's this really nice synthesis between the Eastern and Western magical systems and practices. So for me, what I'm trying to do is make it, because the theosophist stuff is really high mind, to bring it down into a place where we can actualize it. Because for me, it's important. Like we can talk about wielding magic and doing these things, but what it comes down to is how is it affecting me as a person? Like how am I loving more and more deeply because of this experience? Like how am I redefining what love actually is, and how am I creating authenticity with that love? So it's getting more intimate with ourselves, and that's what yoga allows us to do. Yoga takes you to the very edges of your physicality, your emotional states, your spiritual states. Like it brings you into contact with your edges, and it's a beautiful place to play because life is full of edges, and if you don't get comfortable with your edges somewhere, you'll be forced to encounter them in other places. So the yoga mat's like your temple, and when you step on that temple, it's sacred space, and you're really working with the temple of your body in that sacred space. And to make it magical, like to have fun with it, like why not work on abundance work? Why not call in Lakshmi through the body and ask her to like help you, when you're struggling financially? We sometimes pray, we'll put the words out there, but for me, if I put some sweat behind that, it's like my prayer has deeper sincerity because I'm putting my entire being into it. There's no separation now. We're not second guessing now. We're going all in. We're not saying a prayer of maybe. We're saying a prayer that I'm showing up fully and I'm going to give it my all so that the outcome can be the best possible outcome, whatever it might be. So it's just about showing up,
The fire, yeah.
Yeah, and bhakti is like this. It's either people either think it's all kirtan, or they think it's like, which is the singing and devotional, which it can be. But I'm taking some of these like witchy chants, goddess chants, and putting them into the yoga practice. I'm looking at where these things can have some joyful intersections so that we can have some fun. Like I find sometimes yoga is like way too serious.
Oh.
Well, dude, we lost it. We lost like 3 people.
Oh man, we're going down.
What the fuck, dude?
Bogey's here.
Mayday! They're on to us.
We got 3 hits. We got 3 hits.
It's like Independence Day when birds start going down.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Dude,
Actually,
I was getting ready. I wanted to jump in with that guy because
Michael will be back.
I haven't said it or anything, but like, dude,
Okay, Michael Braz will join the Hangout. All right, okay.
Huge history in that myself, and like I just have so many questions. I'll let him get booted back up or something. But yeah, no, I've been practicing the craft for years too. Like I picked it up when I was like 17 or 18, and I guess that's like the whole basis of where I got started too. So I'm very intrigued with what Michael has to say. I'm very, very attentive listening to him too when he was all in there, because I haven't had a chance to talk to or listen to anybody else that has that level of experience. And in my own personal experience, hey Michael, you back? All right.
Yep, I'm back. Yeah.
Nice, dude. I was just saying, like, you left, and man, I kind of told you on the messenger yesterday or whatever. I've been practicing the craft for years myself, so I've been waiting to get like into a in-depth conversation with you because I got a lot of questions. Because you were talking about fairy magic is what it's the style of witchcraft or whatever you you follow, right? Some sort of...
Yeah, so it's the Anderson fairy tradition. And not necessarily like fairy as you would think, like the little beings with like
just
wings.
fae in general.
Well, this is a system that we recognize those beings, but it's not necessarily geared towards working with those beings.
So, can I interlude for a second?
Sure.
Are you sort of just trying to tie in paganism with a little druidism, with a little, like, solid base witchcraft, or what?
Not really. This is it's a system of a traditional American witchcraft. So Victor Anderson, who was the...
So not Silver Ravenwolf.
No. Silver
That's
Ravenwolf, that's more of a what we would call the Wicca system. So Wicca, and which is based on Gerald Gardner's work, is a lot different than traditional witchcraft, which, you know, the big difference is in Wicca, there is this belief in the Wiccan rede and the law of three and the law of return. So it's, for me, the way we practice is
Never been big on that.
You know, we don't practice that way. Like for us, there are times when you may do hexing and cursing, and that's perfectly fine in our system.
Those are like always no-goes.
No, you can. There's absolutely time and place for doing that type of work, and it's up to the individual to decide when that type of magic is necessary. It's not something that you want to do with frequency, but there are times when it may be appropriate to do those types of magic. And that's the difference in some of the systems, is that the systems who don't believe in those things follow a very specific set of guidelines and rules, whereas within our system, those guidelines and rules aren't there. We have the ability to wield our magic as we see fit because we have personal autonomy, and we are the ones who dictate the ethics of our own craft.
Okay.
So there's a difference in how systems use magic and how systems empower people to use magic.
Okay. Now, there's no real fine line. I couldn't tell you a name from something, or I'll tell you that I've read Silver Ravenwolf's New Age, Book of Shadows for the New Age generation. That's a big one. The Big Red. Big Red's good. There's a lot of stuff in there it's very good. It gets down to some really highly detailed things. But as everything, you must take it with a grain of salt. That's what I was first told by my first instructor. My first instructor is my only instructor, save for myself. And we are of the same age. So technically, he was several years ahead of me, but we were the same age. So we were able to grow and learn together. Now, we took a lot of what Silver Ravenwolf had to tell us through that book. Yeah, I incorporated a lot of that into my practice, but as far as claiming Wiccan or anything like that, I do not. I'll tell you, I'm completely undefined. And mostly everything sort of just mended to how I interpret it as my own magic. And I'll tell you that I've taken things from Silver Ravenwolf. I've taken things from Buckland. You know Buckland. Buckland's Big Blue. Yeah. It's a good one. I've got that one. I've got a couple other books, but I tend not to take things from books. I try to just do it. Once you get the basics of how a circle goes and how to build a ritual, and you can sort of just, you don't have to sit in a book your whole life. That's what we try not to do. We try and just take as much good information as we can from multiple different sources and incorporating that into our own style. And I guess that's what we've done. It's really only me at this point, I guess, and you guys, and all of you guys. But yeah, the guys that I grew up with when we were doing that. Yeah, I mean, I guess the other people still are. It's just we've gotten very far with distance and communication is being, gotten down. We don't talk a lot as much as we do, me and the other members of our little closed group that we have. formed up when we were kids and took that on ourselves as our teaching and everything. And I don't know, it was a system of, it was a very small circle system of elders and some leaders. It's very, very small though. So there is really no name sect or defining words that could tell you the style of my craft or anything. But it was just very interesting. I just really wanted to talk to you about your
Well, I mean,
style.
that's
I
like
wanted
the
to talk to
beauty
you
in.
about your style because not a lot of people, use that word straight up. And like, I mean, I'll tell you I'm a witch, but it's not something that I tell people. It's something that I just keep under wraps.
Kyle's a witch.
Yeah.
Now it's out there. Now the whole world knows.
It's so funny.
Well, it was that time. The door was open now through you.
Yeah.
Cool.
There we go.
I was gonna say, guys, yeah, let's spend a little bit more talking about witchcraft and magic and practical stuff, and then we'll just keep bouncing it around a little bit more. But yeah, let's just
absolutely
go into this a little bit more. Michael or Michelle, I know both you guys got your mic open, so.
Yeah. So but I want to touch on what he said. It's the thing about witchcraft and the thing that I like about that path especially is that it can be as eclectic as you want. And I think that's why some people are drawn to it, is because there is no, there's no real wrong way to do it, Like I have the Morrigan next to Kali, next to Shiva, next to Jesus, next to Kuan Yin on my altar, and they all get along just great, It's like you can honor and give grace to those things. And
to multiple deities across the board without having to be self-judgmental or selective of any real way. And like you said, how you incorporate yoga into your style of magic and everything, and that's really cool because that's kind of what I do with my quote-unquote, I guess I'm calling it warrior workout or whatever, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just, whatever I do, with my working out, I try and kind of, I don't know any yoga poses, so I don't really do yoga, but I do my stretching, I do stillness, I do moving stretching, all these different things while I'm working out, while trying to draw down the sun and pull from the earth and get my feet in the ground, letting myself be in ground and centered and pulling all this in and trying to just be as, tapping into that highest directive ultimately. Your very uttermost highest frequency of consciousness with the most pure intent that you could deliver. Because if you're not doing it with pure intention, then you're gonna get booted from the server.
I think, for me, what I find witchcraft and even yoga allows me to do, because for a long time, I was really into the whole New Age idea of ascension. And what I've learned through my practice as both a witch and as a yogi is that to ascend, you have to descend first into the body.
Yes.
Like you can't we spend a lot of time trying to get out of the body, whereas this is where everything happens. And there is so much sacred, beautiful stuff here in this plane of existence that we're missing out on by trying not to be here. And that's the fallacy of the New Age movement, is that it does teach us on some level to be here, but on other levels it's also trying to get us out of here. And oftentimes it's stressed to go from mind to spirit. So we have this really strong mind-spirit connection, and the body gets left out. And it's in the body that we actually manifest. Like say, for instance, we use principles like the law of attraction, and we can go from mind to God, and we can pray and put affirmation around those things we're trying to manifest. And then we manifest it, but then, so you manifest that brand new bicycle you've always wanted. You wanted it since you were a kid. Now you've read Abraham Hicks, and you're putting stuff out there. And now the bike showed up, but then your body's like, nah, I'm too scared to get on that bike. So the body will reject the very thing you've manifested because it was left out of the manifesting process. You know, we forget this is where it all happens. Your body holds every memory from the moment you were, you know, being held by your mother in her womb. You know, every sensation you've ever felt is stored in your body, like all these emotions, everything, every scar, every nick, every stub toe, every bit of fear, every bit of joy, the body holds that. And in my tradition of witchcraft, we teach the tripartite soul. So we have the middle self, which is our rational self. We have the God self, which is our holy guardian. It's the one that is the pure, perfect part of us. But then we have the lower self, which is our animalistic self. It's our primal self. It's in our tradition, in the Hawaiian practice of Huna, you only can reach the divine by first going through the body. So you have to go down to go up, because it needs to be part of that process. And when it's left out, it breaks this circuit. And when the circuit's broken, the body begins to feel the effects of that, which is why you have a lot of people who burn out spiritually. Because if you're always going up into divine space, you're burning. That's a lot of light to continuously bring in. We have to go into the body and work on the complexes, the shadow. Like, we have to do that work. You know, too much light will kill you. Too much dark will starve you. You know, we work in, you know, the betwixt places. We work at twilight and dawn. You know, it's like these very powerful spaces that I think being a witch lets us access. You know, because I was like full on like New Age when I first came into like this work, and it was a message that I got from my own intuition that said, the more light you bring in, the bigger your shadow gets. You know, if you put your hand like near a flashlight and start to pull that light back, and more light shines on your hand, the shadow that's cast on the wall gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And if we don't give ourselves permission to also look at the shadow, we will also block how we manifest. And I think that's something that's inherent in a lot of witchcraft systems, is the idea of shadow work and working with the shadow and working with those parts of self that are often ignored. You know, it's owning all of our parts and pieces to become whole. It's not leaving anything out. Because, you know, that's what yoga does. If you get on a yoga mat and you start moving your body, you start to see where all your resistance is, like hamstrings, like glutes. You see where the tightness is. The frustration comes up. The anger comes up. All that stuff comes up because it's all right there. You know, but that's what it is taking ownership of all of it so that we can be whole. You know.
Self-acceptance is like a huge part of that process I'm learning, and self-acceptance on one hand of your greatness, of how awesome you are, of your own divinity, but not in like oh God, not in a grandiose way, but like in an acknowledgement of like the sincerity of your own divinity, and the acceptance and integration of that primal energy, the shadow, the animalistic qualities. I have been working through, this is personal, but whatever, it's just coming up, just a lot of shame of like the desire, this beautiful like primal potency, Kali, tantric goddess energy, and also I was having a conversation earlier today about like a trickster archetype that is showing itself, revealing itself in me, and how that and how I haven't really worked with that on a conscious level. And I started very dark when I was in high school. I was goth, you know. I had like bright red hair before Manson did it, but like around the same years, you know, and I wore boots and leather and everything. And then I went very Kuan Yin. I went very light. And I went very light because I think I wanted to not scare people so much. And you have tattoos on your face, so I mean, like, but I went into this other extreme of myself. And now I'm kind of coming back into an integration of balance. So that lost part of myself, where that fierceness, where I kind of stifled that fierceness for whatever reason, she's asking now to be like owned in a way. And a lot of my work earlier this year was about recognizing that, the sacredness of the ferocity, you know, and how do I bring that to the table without scaring people, not so it's like too much, but like without disempowering myself, because a lot of my power comes from that essence, that rawness that I have. And then so how do I deliver? How do I own all of that? So I'm still fusing that, you know. It's a part of my woman self that I need to, in order to be whole. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah.
There's a phrase in Psalm 23, I prepare us a table in the presence of mine enemies. It's not I slew my enemies. It's not I went to battle with my enemies. It's I prepared a table in the presence of mine enemies. And what that's saying is that within us there are these warring factions, and that let's just sit down and have a meal together. When we talk about demon work in my practice, it's really getting to know those parts of ourselves that, you know, may have been there for a reason but are still lingering now. It's my addictions, it's my anger, it's my procrastination, it's my fear. It's saying, I love you and you're part of me, and because you're a part of me, we need to sit down and have a discussion about how we can work together. And it's honoring that part of myself. It's honoring my trauma as something that needs to be loved and not something that should be shamed. You know, it's being vulnerable enough with myself to say, look, this is a part of me that is still hurting, and I'm going to hold that place that's in pain in deep love right now and give it the gratitude that it's calling for, you know? Because if it's still warring within me, it's calling for something. And if I sit at the table with it and I say, look, we may not have always got along, but if we can have this discussion, I'll do this in my journal, I'll have this discussion with it. Like I'll put a chair across from me and like we'll have this discussion, whether it be internally or externally. And I think that allows us then to work in relation to these parts of ourselves that we're warring with. And it's a fine line between acts of love and acts of war. It's like when people go to the gym, or when my clients come to the gym for a workout, and I'll ask them, why are you here? And very often people say, you know, well, I want to be stronger. I want to like look better. I want to look this. I want to try this. And those statements are statements of war. You know, I want to look different than what I currently am. And there's nothing wrong with wanting those things. But if my intention is that I am not good enough as I am, therefore I need this other thing, that's an act of war, right? If my desire may be, like maybe that's a great side effect, but I'm going to love myself enough to do this workout today solely because I love myself as I am. I love myself. And if this other stuff happens, great, you know? And usually when we start loving ourselves, all the other stuff starts to catch up. Because when you go to war with yourself, your body is so much more intelligent than we are, you know? It's like it knows how to sabotage a diet. It knows how to, like, you know, that's why people yo-yo diet. They go up and down in weight because the body it's a trickster. Like it's animalistic. It's primal. It only if you go to war with like a dog, it'll bite you. You know, it's primal. It knows that game much better than the rational mind will, and you can't force it. It will naturally go along if you love it enough. And I think that's, you know, I printed out that psalm and I like highlighted that line. I was like, that's exactly the visualization to bring those pieces to the table and say, God, I love myself enough to have that conversation. It's like I went through a really bad breakup, right? And you finally get to the other side of it, and I light a candle to my ex and I say, I love you, even still now. And not in a love that's toxic. It's saying thank you for the teaching. It's thanking the experience of pain. It's thanking the heartbreak, you know. Thank you for allowing me to feel, you know, what I'm feeling because it hurts. Thanking the pain as a doorway to something greater. You know, thanking the very fact that in this moment I can experience pain. You know, when so many people like die, like just in the past few minutes, like how many people died, you know? They're no longer able to feel heartbreak, right? I see people sometimes complaining about, you know, oh, when it was snowing, oh, it's snowing, it's so terrible. It's like, God, like how many people right now are never going to get to feel the snow again? You know, like the very fact that I can complain about it is sacred. You know, it's beautiful. It's like, but you know, you brought something else up too that's really important. Things we don't talk about enough, like sex and death, and these things that I know, like Skull and I did some taboo topics in the past. You know, and I think like there are those things we skip over, you know, because you know we're uncomfortable talking about those things, or even a word like shame. Like we won't talk about it. We won't talk about the spirituality of addiction. We won't talk about these things because it's so much easier to talk about like all these things like lucid dreaming and touching the light and like witchcraft even, right? Which is still kind of taboo. But it's hard to like talk about the spirituality of shame. It's hard to talk about the spirituality of trauma, you know?
Yeah, I would bring to this podcast, like I was like this self-sabotage came into my business recently where I was like, oh shit, like that's like, that's like a real thing, like where you like shy away from your power. So it's just like how you're self-sabotaging yourself. And I'm like, I need to study that concept because it's something that's showing up that I'm not aware of, but like I really don't, like what is the habit patterns? I was talking about the hero's journey a lot earlier today, so that's like a part of the hero's journey, or like all of our addictive whatever we have. But yeah, that's a good idea. It's so funny though because I'm like I can like almost see Skull. I know you're right there, but like I see you in my head. It's like it isn't like something when we talk about community or Facebook, you know, it's like it's hard to like catch people with a net with like today we're going to have a podcast on self-sabotage. You know? Nobody wants to party.
Right. Well, it's like, you know, I do a lot of talk about death. You know, death is an important part of my practice, especially with bhakti, because it's a side, you know, yoga teaches you how to die. Like that's what shavasana is. Like shavasana is the corpse pose. We're walking towards death the entire class. Like, but people are so afraid to call it the corpse pose. They won't call it that. Shavasana sounds pretty. It's cool. Like, let's shavasana it out. People, you ask them, what's your favorite pose? Shavasana. Okay, well, like, we're learning to die. Like, death is your favorite pose. You know, and it really is, you know, death feeds life. It's this beautiful, this shaman once said, and it was really powerful. He said, there are three very powerful experiences we'll have, you know, in life, three very powerfully mystical experiences. And one is the birth, the second is sex, and the third is death, you know, because it is truly a mystery. We can hypothesize about what happens on the other side of that. And we have other people's experiences of what they may or may not have seen. But we won't know until we cross that threshold ourselves. So it's this beautiful mystery. We live in a very death-phobic society. We view death as punishment. You know, it's like you see when a celebrity dies, people like get really upset, like, oh no, like why did this happen? Well, because people die. That's what happens.
Yeah.
You know? It's beautiful, the fact that this person was able to leave, you know. It's like, God, how sacred that is. You know, we do things to slow the process down. Like people, like we spend a lot of time trying to get out of here, but we really don't want to get out of here. Like there's a part of us that just wants to live forever, you know. Like I don't want to live forever. Like I want to like have all those sacred experiences. There's something beautiful about it. But like having a conversation about death is, it's you know, so we're going to talk about death tonight. People won't like show up for it. But if I say, let's talk about love, and then when they show up, I say, well, one of the aspects that I want to talk about with love is death, you know? how loving
I love death, man.
It's like, it's so beautiful though, right? Think about it. It's like, it's like this beautiful thing that constantly walks with you. The minute you are born, you begin to die. And that's just a beautiful thing. You know, and people try to spiritualize the language. Well, we have continuity of, you know, the soul never dies. Well, no, but the body does, you know? And I think when we put spiritual language over it, just like putting potpourri on a turd, you know? It's like, you know, you can try to get it out of the room, but we have to talk about it, because then we can transform that into something that's very beautiful, because we are all going to get there. But having those discussions about it can be really troubling for people, because you have to be vulnerable enough to have those conversations.
Good point. Yeah, and that's I want to say a skill, but that's like that's a maturity, actually, spiritual maturity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I think we were having them, especially because of the stuff we're witnessing. Like we're witnessing death. Like we just witnessed that shooting, in Orlando. We're witnessing a lot of celebrity deaths this year. We're witnessing war. We're witnessing bombs going off all around us. We're witnessing the death of relationships. We're witnessing stuff dying constantly. So it's there, but we're so afraid to actually talk about it because it means we have to acknowledge the fact that we are also dying.
Well, I mean, it's making way for new things to happen. New elements need to be created. In the death process, and it's a transformation. It's a transformation. That's what I'm getting at, I guess. Death itself is a transforming process, because each time you come to live and gather more knowledge, every time you come and you say, all right, before I go there, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to die, and then hopefully I'll have learned my lessons, right? That's what it's, hopefully. So I guess it's it's a transforming process in that way, but it's simultaneously making way for new things to occur. Like when my buddy Tommy went, it was really weird. It was really strange how it happened, I guess, to the point where it was like, you don't know if he ran into the highway or if he was just sort of in the middle of it. But, like I like to think he made way, and other people have said this, like he made way for things to happen, for new initiative things to start happening, like to be initiated. One process, switching off this circuit automatically turns on the next. One out, one in. That's how it works. And in all actuality, death is not something to be mourned over. I think it's very American to mourn death. A lot of other cultures celebrate it because you're passing on. But, I mean, if you ask me, death is just being unplugged a little bit. Your time for play is done for now. Hopefully you've done the work that you came here to do, because I believe very much so that I came here for a reason. I came here with something. I'm going to implement it, and then I'm going to go. And I'll be back when humanity needs me again, I guess. I don't know. That's just what I get from life. That's what I get from personal envisionment, from envisioning myself. And I do a lot of, I do lack a lot of self-love on my own part because I forget to love myself. But I'm one of those people who questions, and I go, what is that? What is love exactly? Because you have all these different ideas of it. But it's a vibration. It's a frequency. It is a physical thing that it's tangible. It can be touched. It can be manipulated. It can be used and molded. It is a self-sustaining force. It is something that I guess can both be created and always has been, maybe. I mean, I know what I feel when I get a frequency of self-love, and I'm really in that state of, oh my God, wow, check this out, like, and you just have a massive, and people will look at you and you go like, are you fucking crazy? Like, no, I love right now, I'm not crazy, I love. What do you love? I love Earth, I love everything, like, I have this very incredibly strong idea. I mean, it's a really wild one, but it also goes on to the sacred mushroom thing. If everyone were on, imagine everyone in the world, whether or not on psilocybin or whatever, if they were, it would work a lot better. But if not, just check it out. If we had everybody in the world and we were just like, everyone take 5 minutes of your day, stop at this time, Everyone simultaneously. Now just sit and clear your mind and think one thought. 7 billion people, not what are we, 9 billion, 10 billion people on planet Earth now? 10 billion people on planet Earth simultaneously thinking, I love Mother Earth. I love nature. I just love life and being here in this moment right now. And like you'll hear me say it a lot, and it sounds kind of stupid because it comes from a Tool song, but like just hold on, be here right now, stay inside of this moment right now. I love that. It's too perfect. And I guess that's what an ultimate, I don't know, just say that to yourself a couple times and see if you don't start smiling, you know? Sometimes I can't say that without smiling. But that's very good. Everything we just covered kind of just dropped a little bit of knowledge into each slot I needed something to get out of. That's very nice. It's very nice. There's a lot of synchronicities in that one. That's powerful. Wow. I love it. I kind of forget where I was getting off on there. Where I was going.
I do want to touch on something you said, though, about mourning. I don't think there's anything wrong with mourning. I think grief is a beautiful thing. Grief is natural. We're just not taught how in this country. That's why it looks like celebration in other places. We're taught to suppress and to move on, to get over it, to get back into life. Whereas, other societies have processes that are handed down to teach how to grieve. And in this country, we're not taught how to grieve. And repressed grief can cause very dangerous things to happen. It's where anger manifests. It's where we become more constricted and limited. Being able to access our grief gives us a chance to integrate the loss. And I think that's important. And grief allows us to say that what's happened has happened. It's like when, I do mediumship, and when my clients come to me for a reading, one of the things that I want to do first with the person is to talk about the loss, because we have to acknowledge that a loss has occurred, and sometimes that's the most healing thing that can happen. Sometimes people want to reach through the veil to connect, to have that continuity, but it sometimes erases the fact that a loss actually occurred. Like, we have to touch grief first. Grief is a really powerful, transformative tool. And it can, there's like broken heart syndrome, It's like broken heart can literally kill you. And the very fact that it can have such a powerful effect on the physical body says it's something that we have to acknowledge. And I think it's natural to acknowledge it. I actually, in my journal, I printed out the 5 stages of grief just so I can always have them in there. So we're like, for me, witnessing what happened in Orlando, like, touched grief. Like, it brought up a lot of grief, a lot of old fears, a lot of experiences I had as a gay man in an early gay world where it was less accepted, where I was in the military and it wasn't something that you could claim outwardly in the military. There was a lot of violence. So, it touched a lot of grief that's still there from all these things I've experienced. And giving myself the container to touch that grief and to let it move allowed me to integrate the loss in a way that was transformative versus something that was destructive. It's like when we see people politicizing these global events so quickly, we're not allowed to grieve. It automatically becomes a political issue. It becomes a guns rights issue. It becomes a homophobia issue. It becomes an Islamophobia issue. It becomes an issue, and we're not allowed to grieve. We're not given the space to actually just feel the pain of what just happened. So all that anger that comes up gets redirected, and then the war happens. and we're not allowed to experience the multitude of things that we're going to experience when grief shows up. That's why, like, when I was going through it, like, I had to, like, shut down. Like, I was watching all these debates and things happening, and it's not that we shouldn't have those conversations. It's just that there's a time and a place for them, you know? And I think when you're in the middle of grief, you have to let yourself feel it. It's the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for the loss. It goes back to what we said earlier. It's like putting a candle on your altar and saying, you know, I honor this pain that's happening. I'm not trying to get rid of it. I'm just going to honor it. I'm going to love it because it's here.
So you're channeling some medicine for me, I think, at the moment, rather, because I was given an experience, and it's a loss of a part of yourself, or parts of ourself. I'll just speak mainly. As we close chapters on our lives and relationships, so it's even like things that mean a lot to you. Like I had this one friend that meant a lot to me, and I was aware of how I didn't let myself grieve. I just like shut that door like on my own. It was my choice in Scorpio, so I just cut it. I was like, oh, this is showing itself to me, and now I see that, and I just shut that door, cut it off. I did not grieve, and through that not grieving, I guess the words that are coming now are created a wound, or I did something by not acknowledging how much the depth of that was to me. So, like you said, you go into an action. My action was more like an icy, like coldness, but like, or like an amputation, perhaps, of like a psychic part of myself, which was this relationship with this other person. But it's also it's the same thing that you talked about. People go outward with anger, which I don't do. You know, not for whatever reason, but whatever. But you, instead of going into an action, you know, you or instead of allowing yourself, sorry, it's late now. Instead of allowing yourself space for your pain and acknowledging the fact that you are hurt by whatever is happening, you go into like a defense or an action,
right,
or a pushing away of it, or a suppression of it, like in my case, and that will stifle, or what I saw in myself was it freezes a part of you in that space. And so I don't know if I'm sure people who are listening relate to this. They see their parents, and they see how their parents are like frozen at like a certain age, or parts of you come up, and it's like your 15-year-old self, like that's in my case. But I can see like the different, like the people like you, they stagnate at these trauma points, right? And actually, and what Sean Korn teaches in yoga, and this is something that I love about the practice of yoga, when to circle back, is when I move energy through from yoga, you move that trauma through, you move that psychic energy through, you're giving your space to feel your pain, you're giving your space to feel with the frustration or the things that you can't put words to, but you're discharging the energy. And that's something that's so good about like the hatha yoga practice, is you get into the hips and it's just like, brrr, you're like, I don't even know that bothered me, but until it left, and then I'm so glad. So anyway, but yeah, giving ourselves space to acknowledge that we have these depth of emotions, and then to like process them, is not taught in our culture at all. And I think like those of us who teach workshops, I think that's in ritual, and allow people that sacred space, that energy to connect deeply, or write down what their real wishes are, what their prayers are, you know, put it in the bucket and then do a ritual around it. I think I can see that as being medicine on that level.
It's like an act of self-love, you know, like that's something that Kyle touched on. You know, I think it's the most loving thing we can do, to let ourselves experience the pain of what we're going through. You know, that's love. Love can be all these really beautiful things, but love can also be very painful. Love can be very messy and complicated. Love can be dangerous. You know, love can be. That's why like love is this really cool thing, because it morphs and it melds and it grows and it contracts and it constricts. And it's going to be different. Whoever you ask, you know, it could change minute by minute. You know what love is, especially love in reference to romantic love and intimacy, and that place where it touches our heart in a way that we know that when the fall happens, because it's going to happen. You know, someone said once, and it was a really powerful statement. She told me, like, all relationships end badly. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She says, well, someone's going to die eventually. You know? And in that moment, there's going to be grief. And I think we have to give ourselves permission to do that. And I think that's why I do like yoga, because it does let us do that. We distract ourselves from it. You know, we're taught to do that suppression stuff. We're taught, like, if you're grieving, especially for men even, it's a sign of weakness to grieve. You know, move on, pick your stuff up, and get back into life. You know, and there's no real process for it. Brene Brown does a lot of work around vulnerability and empathy, and I think that helps us to be able to hold space for ourselves, but also to be able to bear witness for others to hold grief. You know, and I'm finding, like, in my work as an intuitive and as a medium, to just be able to hold someone in that space for a minute. Like, sometimes, like, people will come for a session, and then what I get intuitively, we're just gonna sit and we're just gonna love each other for a few minutes. And if pain comes up, we're just gonna love that pain together for a few minutes. And we start to go through these layers where these, like, you know, it really is, grief is like peeling an onion, because the deeper you go, the more tears come. You know? And I think, you know, tears are really just the way the soul speaks. You know, it's like the minute you start holding space for that stuff as an act of love, you then can let yourself have the experience like that you need. It may be tears, it may be body movement, it may be, like, you know, punching a pillow, it could be screaming, it could be laughing, it could be whatever. Like, people experience grief differently. But what I have seen is where when we don't let the grief manifest, and we suppress it. Like, for me, for a while, like, I was a serial monogamist. You know, like, I had the one big relationship, and then the person was my soulmate, and then, like, it fell apart, and then, like, I went to a relationship to suppress it. I started going into a relationship because I didn't have to acknowledge it, because the void was filled. But then the projections that I was putting on these new people, it wasn't fair to them, because I really wasn't in it for them. I was in it to fill the hole. You know, so then we get into this whole thing where, you know, it becomes a distortion of love. You know, so I think letting ourselves feel that pain in whatever way we need to can be, you know, essential to growth.
Yeah, that's when it's coming. That's why it's coming up for me, for sure, because it's like it cleanses the palate psychically, so you can. Because I was wondering, it's like, is it the forgiveness that I need? Do I need to forgive this, which makes it outer again? And it's like, no, it's inward work. It's inward work of admitting to yourself that you felt hurt so much, you know, and that part of yourself, and, like, understanding that. And I'm still on the fence of, like, well, do I contact this person? Is this something that I share? And it's cool having this, like, little inkling of, like, yeah, it's just really just, again, it's about being with your process. And I don't have an answer yet. I don't know what form that do you share with the other person. Like, yeah, that really affected me deeply, and I just want to, like, share that space with you, you know, because it's totally, like, what will be healing. It's hard to discern sometimes, you know, but I'm just going to keep listening like I am, and, like, but I know that that it's because there's calling for a higher level of consciousness, a clearing, and in order to grow, or like every time for myself, like, clearing layers of grief, like, you expand into more of joy and ecstasy, like you were talking about ecstasy and such. And that's a prayer that I had, like, a year ago to, like, I was like, I'm sick of the grieving goddess that I've been, and I'm ready to step into this joyous, like, ecstatic, like, just luscious, you know, woman that I know that I can be, you know. And so it's an interesting unraveling of the onion in order to, like, remove all of the, you know, it's amazing. It's amazing. But I feel, and I came up with this, I wanted to write a story about it, but I never got to, which is, like, grief is a superpower, because grief is yeah, right? And, like, it's powerful. It's potent.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I think, like, grief especially is that doorway that we all walk through at some point. You know, it's a beautiful doorway. It's not one that we want to acknowledge sometimes, but I think even if it's just, like, there's this really good book called The Smell of Rain on Dust, and on Rust, and it talks about grief, and it's like, reading books about grief and understanding the process of grief has given me new perspectives and ways to acknowledge the pain that's still there. I think for me, for a long time, even soulmate, right? So like this person that I met, he was like my soulmate. Like he was also my very first spiritual teacher in a way. But the misconception of soulmate, because soulmates aren't people who bring you love, but they're also, their purpose is to bring you your most difficult lesson. Mm-hmm. And that's what a soulmate does. That's the purpose. I even have his name tattooed on my arm next to the word soulmate, so I always will remember. Mm-hmm. And it's like you go through that breaking, but the heart it's made to break. It's like it's made to break, and that's what love is, especially interpersonal love, because it's saying, I'm opening this door enough for you to walk through, knowing that you could totally like rob my house.
Yeah.
Like you could come in and like steal all my cool stuff. And I just gotta be totally okay with the idea you could steal all my G.I. Joes. And like be okay with that. And it's like this space of surrender, and I think that's another thing that love actually is. It's surrender. Mm-hmm. It's like that's why we get on our yoga mats, or we sit on our meditation cushions, or we drink our herbal tea. It's like it's an act of surrender to something, and surrender is like the greatest act of love. Mm-hmm. And surrendering to our grief can just be a beautiful act of love.
Mm-hmm. And that's the whole transmutation that I've experienced, that I've been dancing with, that I've been privileged enough to like walk through the doors of, is understanding like God, like it can get so good too. It can be so luscious and so heavenly and primal and just like just like gorgeous. Life can be so gorgeous, and being in that open, intimate, vulnerable space with somebody and not feeling paranoid or any of that, you can feel like real transcendence, and alchemy, and and soul magic and all of that. And it's funny, and like hearing all of that said back to me, like I'm just aware of like, bliss, and I can feel that. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
It makes me happy like for all that is and gone through and feel
yeah. That's all magic, It's what leads us here. It's like forgiveness. It's not really for them. It's for us, And we forget the process. Like in relationship, like I can forgive my ex. I can say I've done the work to forgive and release this person. But there's the other half of the coin that says there's the victim story that I'm holding on to that says, what was it about me that allowed this to happen? And that's the part that needs the forgiveness. This person really could probably care less if I forgave him or not. We haven't talked since like in 3 years since I talked to my last ex, right? So like he could probably care less if I forgive him or not. But the part of the story in me that still says, what was it about me that allowed this, or what was it about me that they didn't like enough, or what part of me wasn't good enough?
Right.
That's the story that's saying we need the forgiveness right here. So I like, for me, like the ritual is I light a candle and I light the candle and say, burn away, like whatever still remains that's a contract that I may have with this person or with myself in regard to this person. And I just let myself experience whatever needs to be experienced. And there may be times like it's been like 10 years since my first love, and I still feel the pain of that. There are days like I'm in the shower and I can almost feel him like in my arms. It's like it's still that real.
Yeah.
It's like he's still here. Or I'll hear a song and it's like, wow, it's like it's just like it was the very same moment in time. It's like you can still touch it because that love
is eternal.
It's there, right? It's the body remembers everything. That's why we have to treat the body like so nice, because it remembers everything. We see that tape on the other side. Well, the body's like the recording device. It's like it's recording the story.
But it's not our physical body though. It's our a spiritual, emotional body. It's our.
Yeah, it's all of it. The physical body records it too, because
That's
it's where you
true.
feel the pain. You know, it's like when you feel heartache, it's like right here. You feel fear, it's like in your stomach. You know, you feel the pain in the body. So it's recording all of that stuff also. Like I have a scar on my foot that I got when I was like 10. It's still there. You know, it's still very present. It's a reminder because the body holds it. You know, it's like, it's why we won't touch the stove when it's hot. You know, because it remembers that it's going to burn us. So I think it's all integrated. It's that integrated space that's recording the whole deal for us, you know. But the body's the part we forget, you know. It's like, it's why, like, when you said your yoga practice allow you to pull back those layers, it's like, because when we are able to connect to the body that way, it allows us to experience it. Because it's hard to do, like, up here. Like, I can't really do that in the astral realm. You know, I experience my grief right here. This is where I need to feel it, because this is where it's going to have the most impact.
Mm-hmm. Sure, but I was thinking about the chronic body. Go ahead, Paul. You want to change this flow?
I don't need to jump in. I mean, like, to be honest, like,
You
I would.
can.
It was, yeah, no, I mean, there was some good stuff that came up there, so I was more than happy to just let it flow. Like, you guys were just like getting into some good stuff there, definitely. I was just gonna say, like, logistics wise, we can check back in, but let's just keep going. Any other points, and just inviting other people to join into the conversation. I mean, we've covered quite a few things here in the last few minutes, you know, from life to death, so, and everything in between. So,
We keep it.
but I was going to say, I mean, death is something I'm not shy of talking about as well. And within the future of the Paradigm Shift Project, within the Paradigm Shift Destiny School, I actually do want to have like a class like specifically about death. And you know, again, you know, that can get into a lot of things. And studying death, I think, does help us understand more of the multidimensional reality. What's up, Michelle?
I want to do a reading. Okay, I got an idea about this. We should do a Tibetan Book of the Dead also, because it's like reading assignment and have a mystery school about that. We could even do like a 5-week thing about that.
Yeah.
Because I haven't gotten into that even. I haven't delved in. I'm not like definitely no expert, but I know that it's.
Yeah, Tibetan Book of the Dead will be something that we can bring into that classroom ahead of time. So, yeah, if anybody's interested in that, go read it now. I probably have a digital version, to be honest.
Well, Ram Dass and Timothy Leary said that when they started experimenting with acid, that the journey they saw through those layers of experience was when they went back and they started reading that the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It was exactly what they were experiencing, not knowing that that was what they were experiencing. So when we talk about psychedelics, even the Tibetan Book of the Dead is like the roadmap. It tells you exactly where you're going and how to get there. So
that would be really helpful, because like on acid I've been like confused before because something happened where I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand this. So maybe that would be cool to read that book then.
Yeah, I was this topic's actually come up from a few different angles, but yeah, like I've noticed that too, is that the commonality, because again, you know, when we're talking about like the psychedelic space, the dream space, the death space, the before birth space, it's all the same thing. Essentially, it's like stepping back into that version of reality, or at least the versions that are very similar, and the versions where our thoughts are like instantly creating. And yeah, like that's the thing I've noticed with like meditating on psychedelics. You're like navigating through hyperspace, and so if you understood more about how to navigate through hyperspace, I feel I just adding on to Rebecca what you're saying, it'd be cool to just like know the little tips and tricks of like how to navigate through like in death state and in psychedelic state, and ultimately in this state just a little bit better as well. But yeah, death, psychedelics, and everything. Totally. Rebecca, was there anything else you want to say on that, or?
Well, like what I didn't understand about, well, it was weird. It was like I saw somebody doing, like, it looked like people were actors when I was on acid. Like, there was this guy doing surgery on this girl's leg on this, like, massage table. And it was like, I had seen that before. Like in my last trip, I was seeing surgery everywhere and like a lot of yeah, it was weird. It looked like on stage people were doing surgery, and I saw like it looked like someone was burying somebody. I saw like the muscles and everything, but it was actually they were just covering piping. But to me, it looked like something else, and it really tripped me out because like I swear I saw what I saw. Anyways, and yeah, like it's like I saw things that weren't there but were there. And it just kind of confused me because I'm like, am I just tripping or is there something to this?
That's interesting because you know, the brain will often like do certain things with symbols when like visually, if it can't get the full information for something, it will sort of fill in the blanks. So I think like our imagination works the same way. When we don't have enough detail of what it is we're looking at, our imagination kind of adds in, and that can sort of be where our interpretation stems from. So I mean, an experience like that, I feel like what we can sort of think about it lesson wise is that like, can we bring more discernment into our experiences even when on psychedelics and even when on LSD, knowing that that is a tendency of how our mind works? You know, like when we see something, it's just like, we'll see something and we'll be like, wait, is like that actually what's there, or is that what my imagination is filling in the blank with, so to speak? So just knowing that that's a possibility at least gives you the opportunity to just like bring in more like discernment to perhaps like take a second look or take a closer look, or not like jump to conclusion right away. But at the same time, like sometimes those conclusions are not just conclusions, but sometimes those initial visions or perceptions are meant to sort of like evoke a certain emotional response within us, which could be very important to our trip or something like that. You know, you like turn around and you see like the face of an owl coming out of you from like from the forest, but it's just like two lanterns or something like that, right? But in that moment, like that actually was like the universe like sending you like a pulse of like the animal teachings of the owl or something like that, you know? So I mean, yeah, the language communicates to itself through the power, through the universe communicates to itself through the language of symbols. So in the same way dreams sort of come through things, it would make sense that within psychedelics experiences, it can work in similar ways, if that makes sense. What do you think, Rebecca?
Yeah, that makes sense because angels communicate through numbers. So today I saw 222, and it resembles like to keep doing what you're doing, and like it just sort of made sense, like when I looked up those numbers to like where I'm at. So yeah, because I've been like doing yoga every day, and it's been like a new thing that I'm trying, yoga. I've done yoga before, but like not like consistently. So yeah, and like it resembled to keep doing what you're doing and stuff like that. So it just like made sense to me, the numbers I saw.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Those are yeah, like little things like those, the little synchronicities. Again, you know, stuff like that always makes for like interesting stuff to document through quest journals because more and more people are seeing it. Like literally, like someone like right now somewhere in the world is like wondering why they're seeing 1111 so gosh darn much. You know, like someone's like at that stage right now, and then like that's gonna take them further, and things. But yeah, one thing that I noticed when I was on working with the 5 grams of sacred mushrooms on my recent experience was that like, and even just on other psychedelic experiences, that like synchronicities seem to be coming through in like a variety of ways, and sometimes even more like pertinent and frequent ways. And one thing that it was just kind of funny because like even within my experience, there's one moment where like I was looking at the clouds and I like thought to myself like, hey, that kind of looks like a wolf head in the clouds. And then like as soon as I said that, a dog barked like off in the distance. And I was just like, what? Like, so again, you know, it's kind of like this like echo of the future rippling back to us as an example of like how synchronicity can work, or just like those like intuitive moments that we have that sort of like reveal to us again more about our multidimensional nature and everything. If so, Evan, did you want to jump in on this? Go ahead. I see you got your mic
Well,
open.
I'll relate something that's happened to me. I could tell you about a lot of things that have happened to me spiritually, but I've had a very spiritual life, and not all of it good, a lot of it bad. But has gotten better because of the direction change I've taken in my life. But I remember an experience when I was about, I guess, about 19 years old, and I was going to junior college, and my dad had a camper, a really small camper, in his backyard, and I was using it as a dorm. I was living in a little teeny camper while I was going to college. It was tiny space, but it was adequate, for a guy, a little TV and a little air conditioner in the window. But uh, one night I was sleeping, and I just seemed to roll right to the side and come right out of my body. And I was floating slowly up towards the ceiling in this camper. And there's one of those little lights mounted to the wall that's got those little round clicker switches, the kind you click once and it's on, you keep turning and it clicks off, right? And I remember reaching up and touching that thing, and I couldn't turn it. It would not turn. And it was kind of like the sensation like if you've been shot with Novocaine. You can feel that I could feel something was between my fingers, but I couldn't tactily feel it with my skin. It was like, because I guess I would say I was out of my body. And so I could feel the switch, but I couldn't turn it because it wasn't my flesh that was actually trying to turn it. I was trying to turn it with my soul. And I got scared, and I started floating. I kept floating up to the ceiling, and I looked up, and I could see right through the top of the camper shell, and I could see the moon coming out behind the clouds in the sky. And it's like I was seeing right through the roof of the camper. It's like the roof wasn't even there. I was just seeing right through the physical matter of the camper shell. And as I got about, I guess I got less than a foot from the ceiling of the thing, I got extremely scared. And I called out to Jesus Christ. I said, Jesus, help me. And the instant that I did, I turned sideways and I rolled right back into my body. And one of the weirdest things about it was that I saw my eyelids open. In other words, I was already looking right through my eyelids into the room. I could see the room right there. I was seeing it with my eyes shut. And so I saw my eyelids go up like blinds. But I was already seeing right through them. It was just noticing, oh, there went my eyelids. But I was already seeing the room. It's like I was seeing come right through my eyelids. And like they weren't, matter or anything. And that was a really freaky experience. And I sat up for about 35, 45 minutes thinking about what I had just experienced. And I finally calmed down enough to go back to sleep. I've had a lot of spiritual experiences. I've had several out-of-body experiences. I had a couple several years ago where I was floating around in the room in my bedroom, and the strange thing was that I could move myself. I could go forward, but I couldn't really steer. And so I would bump into the wall, and then I would turn. I was kind of like a screensaver, you go up, you hit the thing, it goes up, hits the wall, and it bounces off the corner of your monitor, and it goes back down, and it hits another one. It's like ping pong or something, I was out of control. I couldn't control my direction, but I could accelerate or slow down. And I was just bouncing around the ceiling up there, and it was frustrating to me. I kept trying to say, well, wait a minute, I can control this. I know I can steer myself, but I was never able to do that. That's happened to me several times, and I always came back to my normal self again. And so I thought that was really weird. I had about 4 or 5 like that. And so I've experienced, being out of my body, if you want to call it that, a number of times. And it's really, it can be scary for a person. Of course, now my religious beliefs would probably be very different from all of yours, So I would have different explanations for all these things. And I'll just end by saying I've had some very negative experiences too, with entities that I do not believe have my best interest at heart. In fact, actually hate me. And I think we all experience those kinds of things. Entities that love us and entities that hate us. And I think we're all going to experience that as we go through life. And I think, I personally believe there is but one God. And one God explains all spirituality. There's just one. And I think that the idea of other gods is I think people tend to investigate parts of their psyche and their emotion and deify them, and so they believe that there are multiple gods. And this is kind of what Hindu philosophy is, as I understand it, the deification of human emotions, and that's why I think there are a million gods in the Hindu religion. But because if you fear something, well, because there's a god of fear, and if you're jealous over something, well, it's because there's a god of jealousy, and so on and so forth. And how many ways can you do that with human psyche and come up with a new god? But I would just end on saying that I think we all have very interesting spiritual experiences as we go through this life, and I think it's worth investigating the origin of them and considering maybe we don't always have the right picture or the full picture, but it's very interesting when we have an experience that we know for sure is clearly spiritual, like if we are outside our body, an out-of-body experience, something like that can be very frightful because we're stuck in this flesh, and so when that gets upset, we're taken out of that environment to just one where there's you're not stuck in a physical body. It can be really spooky, but I've learned to deal with that. I don't have those experiences anymore because I had a profoundly religious experience with God. And I asked him to prevent these experiences from happening to me anymore because they were demonic in nature. Not the ones I told you about, but some of the experiences that I had. Some of the entities that I've encountered were extremely evil. And I got sick of those experiences, and I wanted to be freed from them. And so I asked Jesus Christ to help me with that, and I haven't had any since. And just point that out. Anyway, I'm done. I'll meet my mic.
Thanks, Evan. Thank you for sharing, Evan. Yeah, I think just like what you're hinting on there is again just good, important information for us to be aware of as possibilities within this reality when you're talking about the out-of-body experiences, and we do, it's something that's come up before when we talk about like the idea of like benevolent and malevolent entities and intelligences and stuff within this reality, and it's something that we can definitely explore more in the future, and it's stuff that's come up in Dream class, and it's stuff that maybe the yogi witch Michael Brazel might have some ideas on if we were talking about like basic protection and just like how to think about things like that. I will say that we're gonna have to wrap the class up soon enough, otherwise I'm sure it will just be like a 10-hour broadcast and we'll just keep going, and totally be awesome that way. So we're gonna be doing that soon enough. Michelle, you got your microphone open. Is there something you'd like to share? Or I imagine you're probably heading out soon.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's been an endurance for you, so
Yeah.
Wonderful job today.
Thank you, darling. Well, Are we gonna wrap in the next 10 minutes, or I can go now? I can use this as a segue to go.
Are we gonna wrap in the next 10 minutes? Well, I wanted to do a tarot draw before we to wrap this up. And I know you don't. And that's what do you want to do the tarot draw? You can do the tarot draw.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you can do. You're excited about it. Go for it. Okay. Michelle's going to get a tarot deck. So I was going to say, Michelle can do the tarot draw, and then we can close with a short meditation. And again, in the same fashion, I want to be able to offer anyone else who wants to feel called to lead a short meditation to please feel free to do that. I know it's like a little bit late energy-wise, but it would just be like sort of like centering in to our breath and just like reflecting on like gratitude and any intention. So Michael, I know you have experience with that. If no one else wants to jump in, is that something you might be able to do, or Michelle can do it too?
We can do it together. Yeah, we'll do it together. Yeah.
Okay, sure. You guys can. I'll let you guys do that. That'll be a fun one. So yeah. Yeah, like seriously, like a shared like short guided meditation. I'm sure it's possible if you guys want to practice it. So, okay, I was just gonna say right before we get into the card thing, just based on Evan actually dropped. He may still be tuned in. I'm not sure, but do we want to just go into any response related to the topic of like malevolent, benevolent entities and what people should sort of just like maybe some ideas that can help people think about those things without feeling the need to be like freaked out about them? because I know it's a thing. People are just like, I'm
100%.
really interested in lucid dreaming and astral projections, but I don't want to get possessed by Satan, and I'm, not totally into that stuff. And New Age is a gateway to like possession and things like that. There's a lot of, again, it's important conversation, and it could be a whole thing in itself. But any short points on that, guys, feel free to.
It can be. I mean, it can be all those things. I mean, it depends on your intention. It comes back to intention. But I think it's also naive to think that malevolent entities don't exist. There is stuff that is beyond us. There is ancient primal energy that, it's like parts of the ocean we still haven't tapped yet. So even in realms of the etheric realm, there are things that we don't quite understand yet. I've done exorcisms. I've studied demonology. I have friends who work with demons as entities. There's a whole branch of spiritual practice called the denominators. They work with demon energy specifically. I have friends who are Satanists. I have friends who are Luciferians, and Luciferians and Satanists are two different things. I think it's just a matter of doing your own research. I think sometimes when fear becomes the context through which we're looking at those things, we can create a very fear-based experience if that's what we're asking for. It's like when I see, especially in the Catholic tradition, the exorcist and the demon, does the priest exist because of the demon, or does the demon exist because of the priest? But, it's like, but in the hierarchy, there are what we call the divine demonic, which are those entities that are what we consider the fallen angels. And, many of them retain their angelic names in the fall. And what they are, it's like, there are bad things that happen in the world. And there's an energy that creates the circumstance for that thing to take place. And that's kind of the space that those energies work in. They're the ones that offer us opportunity and create change. Personal demons are the more difficult ones, the ones that are our addictions or the things that we project out into the world as harm and hate. And there's like, we could go like, I've done full-on episodes on my blog talk channel just on demonology. So if people want to go check those out, they're more than welcome to. So yeah, it's a really big conversation, but I think too, it just comes back to intention. If you need to have if you take your Ouija board out and you need to have a fear-based experience, then that's what you'll have. But if your intention is just to have an enjoyable experience connecting to whoever wants to come through in a very positive space, then that's the experience you'll have. So it just all goes back to intention. But don't be naive in thinking that those things don't exist, that when you leave your body to travel into the astral, or when you have a psychedelic experience, that those things can't be part of the experience, because they very much can be part of the experience. And I've seen it. Like, I've seen some pretty wacky, crazy things happen. So I think it's important that if we are doing things like lucid dreaming and astral projection and working in the etheric, that we do our research, that we do our homework, we talk to people, and we don't go in naively, because it's in consciousness that you can do these things. Just because there's so many movies out there about demons and those kinds of things, they exist in consciousness now. They always have. It's just now they have a form. So just be careful. I always say, like, STDs, the spiritually transmitted diseases. So just always put on your protection before you go into the stuff you're doing, in whatever way that manifests for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Michael. Again, just to keep things in the loop, we'll keep answers concise and allow these to expand in future discussions. Almost leaving people on a cliffhanger there. It's just like, yeah, all you gotta do is just like be protected, and people are just gonna be like, but how? So, I don't know if there's more you want to say on that, but if anybody else wants,
you just watch Paradigm Shift. Just tune in to Paradigm Shift Team Hangout. That's the best way to be protected.
Careful.
Dude, I got a lot. I got a lot on this one. I got a lot on this one.
Paradigm shift takes no responsibility for any entity you
Demonic
may or may not
possession.
encounter.
So,
Kyle, I know you got a few points. Michelle,
yeah, I've
you're
got
right
points.
after, and again, there's a couple other people. Just want to give a shout out. Again, we got Raphael actually joined the hangout. So, Raphael, how's it going, man? Yo, much love. If you want to unmute your microphone, feel free to just give a quick hello. And if there is anything else on this, we'll let you jump in as well, or at any point, feel free to jump in. Go.
Hey,
Yo.
hello, guys.
Hey, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's a little staticky, but we can hear you.
All right. Yeah, actually, I jumped in a little bit late, but yeah, my name's Raphael. Nice to meet you guys. I'm kind of known more on Facebook by Uberman. Yeah, glad to jump in, hearing some very interesting things. Actually, hope to hop into the next one and contribute a little bit more too.
We're
Excellent.
glad you're here, man. Welcome.
Sweet, man. Thanks for being here. Sweet. Okay, Kyle. So we'll pass it back to you, and then Michelle, and then maybe you can segue that into the tarot card draw, and we'll wrap this up sooner rather than later. So, and again, people were just Michael was saying, tune into his broadcast. You can find Michael's links through this episode afterwards, but it is blogtalkradio.com/mbrazel, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Michael? Do you want to just let people know your websites?
It's just blogtalkradio.com. Michael Brazel. Find me on Facebook at Mbrazels for Facebook. It's late now. But if you have questions on this stuff and just want to talk one-on-one, just always reach out. I'm always available.
Awesome. Perfect. And again, Michael we mentioned earlier, he had the recent quest journal up on the website and talking about his witch Bhakti, was it Bhakti witch? Yeah,
Bhakti witch.
Bhakti witch. Cool. Okay, so Kyle, we'll pass it over to you, dude. What's up?
Yeah, I've got very good points on that guy's dream. When he was talking about his dream, I got huge wide eyes, man. That's happened to me multiple times, and I've experienced that. I've experienced that fear. I know what he's talking about. Exactly. Like, it's uncanny. Just when he was going through his telling his dream, it brought me back to mine and my experience. And it happened a lot when I was in the barracks at Fort Riley, and it was something that was incredibly terrifying at first, until I got the confidence to stand up and figure out what it was. And like that paralyzing out of body experience is so terrifying. I'm not exactly entirely sure what that is, but it's just a way of showing you it's a way that the universe is unlocking some of your potential. It's unlocking more potential, unlocking more abilities, more strength and power and love within inside of you. When that's happening to you, it's important to take a mindful note of it and say, oh wow, look, this is something they talked about. I kind of remember, because when that happens to you, you pull out of the dream state a little bit and you enter more into a very vivid sort of spiritual state where you're totally conscious and awake and you know what's going on. And that feeling of floating up to the ceiling, you're like, oh my God, what the fuck? You're like, oh my God. That feeling, if you just accept and if you grab a hold of that, that's a part of you. That is a part of you trying to say, hey, look what we can do. Look what's possible. Look what's possible outside of this realm. Once you wake up, it's still possible. That's what that is. And for me, it was learning how to control it. Like he said, I could accelerate and slow down, but blah blah blah. And it's just taking those steps to go, hold on, wait, I can do this, and then it happens, and then boom, you're doing it. And then later on in dreams, I would be like, okay, I remember this, I can do this, and I would just go, and it wouldn't even be walking anymore. And that's It's like becoming an architect inside your dream. You're becoming Neo from the Matrix. You know, at that moment, accepting that you are gaining the ability to be that much more versatile in your world that you've created in the world that we share.
Mm-hmm.
So that's and yes, you can say like that is a part of you. That is you. That's your power. And
Yeah.
to just throw that to the side and say it's a demon and I need, you know, like I'm not bashing anybody, but to say that like that's this and blah blah blah. I'm like, no, that's being childish. That's being spiritually immature and not wanting to accept what's real. I don't know. I have a thing with that. Like,
I
you
find
can't blame everything on demons. And like, yes, demons. Like I would say that they exist, but I've had very, very many clashes with them and beings like that. I have a lot of experience with inhuman entities, and when you get to demons, you get to two different things. You can have something that's, well, if you look at it, what is a demon? A demon is an inhuman entity. It's an entity that's never been human. It's never going to be. And then you have people who are stuck, that are stripped of their humanity to the point where they can't move in that, and they're stuck in between here and the next. And those people have become so stripped of their humanity and harbored so much resentment that they no longer have, the universe is not allowing them to reestablish central point with body connection, with physical connection anymore, because they've given up on that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they've surrendered to becoming part of the dark weave instead.
Michelle, go ahead. I know you wanted to jump in. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, I wanted to say that the more and more I learn about the universe, the more and more it's all about wielding your own power and your alignment with your own power. And yeah, so you cannot give your power up to anything in life, whether it be darker forces, whether it be other people, but just it all comes back to, it seems in Bhakti Yoga and the truth of our consciousness, everything. And I said this earlier today on the other podcast, it all comes back to the knowing your heart and the integrity of your heart and using the power of your heart to guide your way in every part of your life, but also as a like amplifier of what I believe is like the highest state of consciousness, which is actually I'm finding is like Christ consciousness, which is that golden interweaving of like pure light energy that we all kind of share and carry. And I feel like the ascension consciousness is a lot about that, like love-based consciousness. And that's my understanding, my personal understanding of what that is. And I believe that that is the light, and that the more we align to that, the better, the more we can hold true in the face of other forces. But I'm definitely not an expert on, demonology and such. And so that's just what I know about, like, my wisdom is, it's just all about owning your own vibration. And if you own your own vibration and you don't give it away to anything else, then like you're good. But I experience all different kinds of things at different points in my journey. So it's always changing, that's for sure. Okay, enough of that. Let's draw a card, huh? Shall we?
Yes, please.
Let's do it, Michelle.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm burning sage because sage is a powerful cleanser of energy. And my prayer in this moment is that, because there's going to be so many people watching this broadcast and it's like a weekly thing, is that we draw with a message. I'm drawing from the Thoth, or the Thoth Tarot deck, and that may it be alchemizing and changing and positive for all of us. And I have a really badass book that I love, that I've never shared publicly ever. It's called Mirror of the Soul. And it's this is an interpretation, and I'll read out of that. And also, if anything comes to me or any of y'all, my friends, feel free to jump in on what your interpretation of the card is. So, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. It's the highest of the high. We ask that we are guided to the perfect right card for the highest of us all. Oh. This is not one of my favorite cards, but maybe this will be good. It's the Seven of Swords, and it's futility. This is a card, so the word futility itself means like when you try things and the effort of trying them, like you run into obstacles. Some of them you get to draw another card to see what happens when you let go of that. So let's see what this is one of those. Negative expectations is a big thing. The large sword of clarity is attacked and injured by 6 smaller swords and loses energy and endurance. The smaller swords, each of which bears planetary symbols on its hilt, represents pessimistic thoughts which prevent clear success. I'm sure nobody knows what that is about. I definitely do. Conscious and unconscious, sun and moon, either at the end of the central sword, have traded positions. Gloomy subconscious expectations muddy your insight. Heavy anxiety prevails, although in reality everything is going perfectly well. Gosh, I relate to that so much, of like where your negative thoughts are really the only thing that's actually impeding anything, and actually everything is fine. I love that. So discouraging aspects of the 6 small swords can be explained in the following way. Neptune, everything seems to be clouded by a film or a veil. I just don't know what I want. Venus, but it's too good to be true. Mars, I haven't the energy. There is no time. I'm already too old. Jupiter, there is too much good at once. I could never cope with so much success. Mercury, but I just can't convey it properly. Saturn, it is simply too much trouble and it takes too long. These literally destructive thoughts need not be taken seriously. The reality is somewhat different from your present perception of it. Soon you will be able to laugh over your own doubts. Oh, I love that. That makes me very, very happy. Your fears have nothing to do with reality. Wake up and see what's really happening. In what areas of your life do you diminish yourself with your own limited ideas? What are your constricting belief systems? Draw another card asking the question, how will my life look when I drop my doubts? And then the affirmation is, I am the master. I master all the skills and means needed to achieve that which I long for most deeply. So that's beautiful, because I feel like the first half of the year, this is my interpretation of the card, I feel like the first half of the year we did this retrograde cycle, so there was like 6 months of like 5 planets going backwards, and we read all those planets, right? And so all of those doubts, all of those fears, all of those past life things, all of that came up for like regurgitation, to be looked at, to be looked at, to be looked at. Mars is moving forward like tomorrow or so, or like today, I think it happened, or yesterday actually, I think it was. And then there's a window of like this, the still Mars, and then like July 11th is when we're going to start picking up speed and energy. And then a month later, at the end of August, like 3 more planets or something go direct. So there's like this of energy that comes out. And then by like September, October, we're going to be like full fuel into like what this next 3-year cycle is. So for like 17, 18, 19 is going to be like phase 2 of ascension. So like all that shit that you just brought up is like now we're going forward into it. So so it's not a time for doubts anymore, but it's a time for whatever this next card is. So let's see what that is. Okay, I'm going to put that deck separate. Does anybody else have any thoughts on before we go into the next one?
Yes, I drew 4 of swords 2 days ago.
Cool.
And that is repose of air. And that is sitting. It's you've done the hard work. You still might feel like there's more to be done, but really what you need to do is right now is just take a moment to relax and know that you've put forth the effort. Time to just, like, the battle's over. You still feel weary and attentive, but now whatever you put out is now in work. It's in motion. The wheels are turning. That's what 4 of Swords was for me. But you pulling the 7 of Swords is very, very synchronistic. It's very in line with that. So I just thought that was very unique, that we are all, we're all on the same page here in the paradigm shift. I'm getting 4 of Swords, she's got 7, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it totally makes sense to like me and my roommate. She's sitting here right now saying, "Oh my God, this all like totally makes sense in my life. Like I've let go of so much and I'm like, you know, yeah, we're like she's come so far and we all have. So it's really cool."
Michelle, just check your mic and pass it back to you.
Thank you, honey. Um, so what will our lives look like? So I know this card personally very, very well. I can read in the thing, but I just know what this interpretation is, and I
Which
psychically
card? Which card is it?
Queen of Wands. So I'm going to share, since Rebecca said that thing, I'm going to share what this card means personally to me, and psychically I feel like Michael should also share what this card means to him, and then we'll go into whatever form of meditation. But I just like right away I was like, oh, Michael has to, I know that you have some juice medicine with this card. So the Queen of Wands in this particular book, it talks about how she once had dark hair, and the leopard at her side was like, it was a black jaguar perhaps. And what happened was she turned gold for her own transformation. And I feel like I do need to read some of it, not only for myself but for us. But that because of her transformation, I think it's a release of her fear, that she gives away what was holding her back, and then becomes this radiant being of life, and light. But also because it's kind of like in the broadcast when we talked about. You descend to ascend, and so it's like you go through the shit, you go through the retrograde, you go through the murk, and then from that you have like something to offer the world. And then that's beautiful, because that resonates with me even on my journey that I'm talking about, going on where I want to teach. So she's the watery aspect of fire: self-knowledge, change, compassion. The Queen of Wands has mastered self-knowledge. She has looked deep into her own nature, which has led to transformation of her being. The story says that at one time she had black hair, and the panther, her companion, had black fur. The transformation she underwent left her with golden blonde hair and turned the panther into a lion. However, her knowledge of her former condition filled her with compassion for those creatures not yet freed, and in order to be able to help others, she chooses to wear reddish-brown hair and keeps the lion in the form of a leopard whose black spots bear witness to the darkness of the past. The queen sits in a fiery throne wearing armor of scales with a fish emblem on the breast. It is the unifying of water and fire, of intuitive recognition and emotional involvement, which affect inner transformation. Her crown of intellectual clarity, expanded perception, still bears the nails of the crown of thorns, a reminder of the humiliation and suffering which preceded her transformation. Her eyes are closed in quiet ecstasy. The consciousness is turned inward, and her presence radiates the blessedness of inner peace. The pine cone at the end of the wand symbolizes spiritual growth. The wand held in this position reminds us to ground our self-realization in the earth, as well as allow others to share in it. You have worked hard on yourself and made progress. It is time to learn how to share this with others. Let your self-realization be expressed in your daily life. How can you share what you have found for yourself with other people? Meditate on the following statement. Learning is finding what you already know. Action is showing that you know, and teaching is letting others know that they know it as well as you. I am a radiant, and we can all say this to ourselves together. I am a radiant being filled with light and love. And I honor my shadow, because it gives me compassion for others. Aho. That is our tarot reading. And I will pass it to Michael to share what he knows about either futility or the Queen of Wands, and also to lead in meditation.
Yeah, well, I think futility is, it goes back to all that stuff we were talking about, like grief and pain and all of that stuff. Like sometimes, like, and you said this earlier, and because of the dreariness of the night, you said a very powerful mantra when we were talking earlier, and it's, I don't know. I think it's okay not to know. I think sometimes the most sacred mantra we can say is, I don't know. And that's where futility comes in. Like sometimes just sitting down and saying, God, I don't know. And just letting that be your starting point, and just saying, it's okay not to know. I'm just going to sit right here and just enjoy not knowing. until something opens. And when we look at the queen, in my tradition, we honor the star goddess, God herself. And the story of her creation, how she created the universe, is that she looked into the void, the big black mirror of the universe, and saw her own reflection and made love to herself. And through that orgasmic experience of making love to herself and knowing herself completely in her own totality, the entire universe is born. So it's, when I see that card that you pulled, the reference and the simple statement that comes up is, she loved herself enough that she turned golden. It's like, just love yourself. That's like one of the most powerful and most difficult spiritual things to do. Just love yourself. If nothing else, just for today, give it a try. Love this next breath. And with that, we'll jump into the meditation. So just get settled, like wherever you are, for just a moment. Just take one deep breath in, just let it out. Just let yourself settle into the body. And I'm just going to invite you into this moment in whatever way feels best for you, in whatever way feels right. Sit how you are, breathe how you are, and let the body breathe for itself. It knows how to do this. And if you want, bring a hand to your chest and feel the rise and fall of your own breath as it moves in and out of the body. Feel the thunder of your own beating heart, constantly saying the mantra, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's the mantra of the heart. So for just a moment, let's just drop together into that space of the heart, to that place of deep love and deep belonging, sharing in this moment together, breathing in and breathing out. Step into the mystery of your own being, even if it's just for the short time that we're together. Breathing in, breathing out. Feeling the mantra of your heart beneath your hand. I love you. I love you. I love you. Resting in this place for just a moment. And as you listen to the mantra and feel the mantra of your heart beneath your hand, imagine that expanding out, filling the very room that you're sitting in, moving into the very space you're sitting in, extending out the walls and into the earth and up to the sky, extending out through the interwebs, touching everyone who's on this broadcast, both now and in the future. Just allowing yourself to be part of something a little greater for just a few moments. Surrendering into this moment with each breath. Acknowledging how sacred it is to be able to breathe in this moment together. Let's take a deep breath in together. And exhale fully. Let's take a deep breath in. And let's exhale fully. Take a deep breath in. Hold it at the top. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. And let it go. And just know that you're loved. And there you have it. Blessed be and namaste.
Aho.
Oh, thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
Cool. I was kind of in, like, for me personally, it's obviously, nice to just be able to sit back and listen, and even just there, like, I was kind of, the fact that it's getting late, I think for some of us, just kind of like starting to fall asleep, And then like as I was doing that meditation, like that kind of happened. Like I was starting to fall asleep, so then I was kind of like not just like imagining, but kind of like dream space. But like I was like in this like heart expansion vision, and so like it felt like I was just kind of like somewhere else for a second while still hearing your voice. So it's kind of cool. I want to be able to like make that more in the future, sort of like hypnagogic meditation that you're supposed to fall asleep to, sort of thing, guided meditation that would like just like integrate itself into your dream kind of thing. So yeah. But yeah, no, thanks
I
again.
do regressive hypnotherapy, so like we could always like set up a session, and then like I can take people. We can do like a meditation, but I can journey us into a light trance, so that you can actually experience what we call the somnambulistic state, which is that kind of a theta state. So something to think about, like especially like for one of those dream classes or something. That'd be kind of a fun experience.
Michael, do you remember my friend Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also a hypno-regression therapist. Certified and all that mess. He's got his own website. He did that to me one time. It was pretty cool. I was also in the barracks at that time. I was at Fort Riley. But yeah, if you want to link up with him on Facebook, I sent him your link, so thought maybe you guys would be good to link up to and bounce ideas back and forth. So,
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Can you send me his link as well, Kyle?
Yeah, I can.
So I didn't get him in the last tag. Michelle, you had something to say, or I think did you have something to say earlier? Maybe?
Go to bed. Woo!
Let's go to bed.
Yeah.
Well, most definitely. Just checking again if there's anything else anybody else wants to say at this point, even just expressing your gratitude. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in.
Yeah.
That's good.
Really beautiful broadcast.
Massive quantities of gratitude.
Yeah, these team building hangouts are always important. Just sort of like allow whatever needs to come through, and so yeah, we definitely got into some good stuff. So thanks for joining and being a part of that, guys, and much love. Again, if anybody else have anything they want to share, no, that's okay. Rebecca, good to see you again.
Night.
Glad you got to tune in. I know, Rebecca, you had some team building hangouts and stuff happening in Jasper, so cool to see that those are going, and of course we can always talk about that more in the future. And yeah, just wrapping things up on a final note, reminding people that future team broadcasts, the next live one is going to be on Thursday, July 7th, and that is going to be Paradigm Shift Destiny School with the topic of sacred geometry. So you guys can sort of prepare ahead of time for that one. And other than that, though, definitely just go check out the main website, explore, create your own quest journal, sign up for the team Patreon when you can. And thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this broadcast. And, of course, continue the conscious conversations where you are and help build the conscious community where you are. And, of course, feel free to connect with me personally at Skull Babylon on Facebook, and everybody else tuned into this broadcast. You can find them through the links in the show notes and youtube.com/SkullBabylon as well. And again, sign up for the team Patreon to get the super secret video that doesn't exist of me doing 5 grams of sacred psychedelic mushrooms. So we'll end on that much note. And guys, join me in saying farewell to the internet, and let's all unmute our microphones. And guys, just go out there, change the world, get shifty with it. Do what you got to do.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for this
Bye.
evening.
Massive amounts of love to all the internets.
Much love, guys. Cool.
Massive amounts of love.
Thank you so much, guys. Of course, go back, listen to any other broadcasts if they're new to you. Let's go to bed. Let's keep it up, and we'll
sleepy times.
We'll do it. So, good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Keep it shifty, and we'll see you in the future. Take care, guys. Peace.